Hello and welcome to another video. This is the first episode of the story in which Naruto is discovered crying in the woods after failing the Genin exam for the second time by Hinata Hyuga. Naruto decides to make a change, and he is not the only one. Please like and subscribe to show your support. Now let us begin. The sounds of laughter, crying, screaming, and some children shouting in complete joy were being shared around the academy. Children were hugging their parents and laughing, some were crying tears of joy. What was being shared by the children and their parents was a very touching moment. These children had finally reached Genin. And even the few children that did fail, they were cheered on by their parents or siblings that they would make Genin next time. The celebration in front of the academy was in full swing, then their eyes fell on one child that failed the Genin exams. They all stared, or rather glared, at him as he walked through the crowd of families. Uzumaki Naruto was that one failed ninja. Naruto had golden sunshine hair, sun-kissed skin, exotic whisker marks sweeping across his cheeks, and bright blue eyes that put the sky to shame. However, his eyes were downcast and had lost their shine. Tears threatened to spill down his tan chubby cheeks. He could feel the hatred piercing him through their eyes. He couldn't take the hateful looks anymore and broke into a run. A pair of lavender, pupil-less eyes watched the boy run. The owner of the eyes was browsing through a little open-air market when she spotted Naruto in the crowd. She gasped slightly when he ran, pressed her two fingers together nervously out of habit, and stared at the vendor's table in front of her. She turned away from the table and began to follow Naruto's path. Once Naruto was far enough away, he finally let those tears fall. He was so disappointed in himself. This was the second blasted time he failed that test. All because of that damned clone jutsu. Naruto kicked the dirt underneath his feet out of rage. He walked further into town, receiving more hateful glares. Many of the villagers cursed and yelled at him as he passed. Some even spat at him. He took off towards the forests, where the training grounds resided. He ran and ran until he came to a clearing that had one very large, padded training log. He just seemed to stare at it. He let out an angry scream and began to punch the log with everything he had. With anger, hatred, sorrow, pity, any negative feeling he had, he was releasing it into this log. He cried and cried as he punched, but it just didn't seem to make him feel any better. With a half-hearted punch, he fell to his knees and sobbed. Hinata was standing behind a tree, watching her crush cry and punch the defenseless log. She felt bad for him. She wanted to go help him. Reassure him. But she didn't have enough confidence in herself to even take a step forward. She hid amongst the trees watching the blonde cry his heart out on the cold dirt. After watching him cry for what seemed like hours, Hinata watched as Naruto stood up and wiped his tears away. She thought he was going to leave the training grounds and get some ramen or go home. She was taken by slight surprise when Naruto started taking deep breaths before striking the padded log. He was striking the log with all the strength he had. Soon the punches turned into kicks. Soon he was performing combinations of punches, palm thrusts, and a variety of kicks. Hinata's eyes followed every move Naruto made. His moves were far from elegant or graceful, but Hinata still found it irresistible to watch. She stood there behind the trees watching him for hours, training against the padded log. Dusk was quickly approaching when Naruto collapsed from exhaustion. He laid on his back, his eyes squinted shut, gasping for air. He could tell, tomorrow he was going to be hurting bad. Naruto heard a strange noise, after he had fallen. He slowly sat up and turned towards the trees. "Who's there?" he called. Hinata was still hiding behind the trees, with her hands over her mouth. She had gasped aloud when Naruto fell backwards. She started to panic and started walking backwards. She froze when she stepped on a dry twig, hearing it snap. Naruto stood up, the soreness in his muscles already taking effect. "Show yourself," he demanded, having a kunai at the ready. Hinata looked slightly afraid. What if he yelled at her? What if he called her a freak? If you don't come to me, I'll come to you, he threatened. Hinata took a deep breath and slowly approached Naruto. Hello Naruto-kun, Hinata said in a quiet voice. Her face was a rose color, and she was fiddling with the hem of her jacket. Naruto looked at Hinata and blinked. Wait, aren't you that girl from that one clan? He had to think a moment. He placed a finger on his forehead, and squinted his eyes. He still couldn't think of which clan it was. I got nothing, he said with a sigh. Hinata blinked. He didn't know the Hyuga clan. Hinata couldn't help but giggle but quickly placed her hands over her mouth. I am sorry and Naruto-kun. What's so funny? Naruto blinked. Hinata pressed her fingers together. WLYUD don't know WHWH which clan I am from. It's one of the most famous in Keikonoha, she said quietly. Well, you aren't from the Uchiha clan. They're all dead, except for Sasuke team. Besides, before the Uchihas were killed, they didn't have those eyes like you have, he confirmed. Hinata slowly nodded. I am from the Hyuga clan. Mi eyes ar mi clans keikeki I jigenkai. Cool. Naruto exclaimed. I learned about the Uchiha clan's Sharingan from the academy, and from Sasuke team bragging about how he'll one day obtain the Sharingan, he said, mocking Sasuke. Hinata giggled at Naruto's antics. Naruto smiled. So why were you watching me? Naruto asked. Hinata grabbed the hem of her shirt and fiddled with it. She wasn't sure how to answer that. Well, he asked crossing his arms, tapping his foot impatiently. Hinata swallowed hard, and took a deep breathing before speaking. 2S saw you in town. Why you looked so upset. I have followed you to see if you were okay, she said looking at her feet. I'm sorry, she added, bowing to him. Naruto stared at Hinata in shock. No one had ever come to check up on him if he was upset. And she was bowing to him? This was something Naruto never experienced. No, it's okay. I'm sorry for thinking you were going to attack me, he said, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Hinata blushed, smiling slightly. Here she was, talking to Naruto. She was having an actual conversation with Uzumaki Naruto. She was still smiling on the outside, but, on the inside, she was dancing. Naruto looked at Hinata and blinked. She was smiling. Not directly at him, more so at the ground. But she was smiling. She also stuttered, a lot, her face had been red since the second they'd met, and she seemed rather anxious when she spoke. She was rather weird in his eyes. Well, I have to go. I promised the old man I'd meet him at Ichiraku's for dinner, Naruto said, starting to walk off. Hinata's eyes widened. And Naruto-kun. Hinata called out. Her face grew hot and red. She called his name, when she really didn't mean to. Naruto stopped and turned to face her. Yeah? Hinata panicked. What was she supposed to say now? Is this where you train? She asked, pressing her forefingers together. Yeah. I come here all the time to train. Why? He asked. Will you be here tomorrow? She asked quietly. She wanted to see him more. Yeah. Why do you want to know? He asked. This girl is really weird. Can 2 am may it train with you? She asked in a very soft voice, looking at her feet. She was almost embarrassed to ask. Can you say that again? I didn't hear you, he said, cupping his hand behind his ear. Can I train with you? She asked a little louder. Naruto was shocked. This weird girl wanted to train with him? She wanted to train with him. Nobody had ever offered to help him train, let alone train with him. Naruto just couldn't refuse her offer. Yeah. Naruto was smiling from ear to ear. I'll see you tomorrow, he exclaimed, running off with a wave. Hinata watched him run back into the forest. She stood there staring at the spot where Naruto disappeared, looking almost dumbfounded. Naruto-kun is going to train with me tomorrow. It's going to be almost like, Hinata's face became a deep red. Almost like a date. Hinata squealed aloud. She was rather glad her father wasn't there to see her. She would have been scolded and possibly slapped for performing such an immature gesture. She looked towards the sky and decided it was time to head home. Supper would be ready soon, and her father would be most angry if she were to return after dinner was served. Hinata walked back into the village with a smile on her face. She couldn't help it. She broke off into a run back to the Hyuga compound. She was just so happy. She spoke with Naruto today, and tomorrow she was going to be training with Naruto. She raced home, smiling all the way. When she finally reached the compound, the smile was still gracing her lips. As she entered the premises, she saw several of the clan members in the courtyard training. As she walked through the courtyard, the clan members gave her a respectful bow before resuming their training. She hated it when the other members bowed to her. She may have been the heiress to the Hyuga clan, but she didn't like how the main family was always so cruel to the branch family. Whenever a branch member passed her sister, her father or herself, they were to bow or risk being punished. She nodded to them, giving them a soft smile. A majority of the branch family adored Hinata. She was like her mother Hitomi. They were both quiet, gentle, warm, and caring. They were also similar in looks. They had eggplant-colored hair and beautiful light lavender eyes filled with kindness, not hatred like most members of the main family. Before Hinata made her way into her home, she noticed her cousin among the other branch members. He was standing tall, wearing a Konoha Hitai proudly around his forehead. Her cousin Neji was one of the graduating students in this year's class. He was considered a genius. He was glaring at her. Hinata stood there in shock. He was always glaring at her lately. Why does he glare at me with eyes so full of hate? Is it because I am in the main house? I don't want him to hate me. Neji turned his glare back towards the other branch members and pushed on with the training. Hinata shook off Neji's glare and walked into her home. She was greeted by her younger sister Hanabi. You're almost late for dinner, Ne-san, Hanabi said, crossing her arms over her chest. Sorry, Hanabi-chan. I was with a friend, Hinata said with a slight blush. What kind of friend? Hanabi asked with a slight grin. Hinata blushed and bit her lower lip. Naruto-kun. Hanabi's eyes widened. Are you serious? What would Oda-sama say if he found out you were with him? You know Oda-sama doesn't take well to him. I know. Please, Hanabi-chan, don't tell him. I'm going to be training with Naruto-kun tomorrow, she pleaded with her sister. Hanabi eyed her sister and smiled. I promise, Ne-san. Despite their father's favoritism towards Hanabi and his cruelty to Hinata, the Hyuga sisters were very close. Hanabi wasn't cold to Hinata like she was when she was around her father or other members of the family, and Hinata didn't stutter around her sister. They shared everything with each other, secrets, feelings, crushes. Hanabi already knew Hinata's, and they tended to spend their evenings together talking about their day. They heard the dinner bell ring, and they quickly walked to the dining room so Hiashi wouldn't get angry. They sat on their designated sitting pillows and waited. After waiting several moments, Hiashi walked in and sat on his sitting pillow, not looking towards his daughters. A few moments later, their food was presented to them, gyudon, tempura vegetables, and miso soup. A typical dinner in their household. Hanabi and Hinata waited patiently until their father took the first bite of food. Soon, the family of three were all eating. After a few moments of silence, Hiashi spoke. Hanabi, tomorrow I shall be working on your juken style. You are progressing well, he said, sipping his soup. Hinata, he continued with a stern voice. Oh Oda-sama, she asked quietly. I implore you to work on your juken style. It is below par, he said sternly. I'm sorry Oda-sama, she said hanging her head. The elders and I have spoken about your abilities and skill level. We have decided that this will be your last chance. If your skills are not up to par for your age by your graduation date in the academy next year, you will be stripped of your title as heiress, he stated, folding his arms over his chest. Hinata was surprised. She knew that her self-confidence wasn't the best, and it affected her shinobi skills, but she didn't think it would come to this. She really wanted to become the head of the Hyuga clan. If she did, then she'd be able to drastically change his things. IP promised to become strong, O Oda-sama. Two won't let you down, she said, looking at her food. She clenched her fists on her lap. She would get stronger. She would for herself, for her clan, and for Naruto-kun. After dinner, Hinata and Hanabi excused themselves, and ended up in Hinata's room. What are you going to do, Nei-san? I know it's your dream to be head of the clan and change things. How are you going to get stronger, she asked. I don't know, Hanabi-chan. Training with Naruto-kun may help. He's very strong. But Nizan's failed the genin test twice. How strong could he be? If I train with Naruto-kun, maybe I can get stronger, Hinata said with a nod. I will grow stronger you just need to believe in yourself, Nei-san. Hanabi said, placing a hand on her older sister's shoulder. Yes. Thank you Hanabi-chan. Naruto sat on his usual stool at Ichiraku's ramen stand. His teacher Iruka was with him. Naruto, you really need to start taking the genin exam seriously. You need to start taking training seriously, he scolded. Of course, Naruto wasn't listening. He was too wrapped up in his sixth bowl of ramen. But Iwukathenthei. Naruto exclaimed. Swallow before you speak, Naruto, Iruka said, rubbing his temples. This child could be so hopeless sometimes. Naruto did as he was told and swallowed all the noodles in his mouth before speaking again. But Iruka-sensei. I was being serious. I tried my hardest and I couldn't do it, he exclaimed, slurping the broth from the large bowl. Iruka sighed. Listen Naruto, I really do want you to graduate, but I don't think you're trying your hardest. You do the minimum school work that is required. Your taijutsu is horrible, you can't produce any genjutsu, and your ninjutsu is just as bad as your taijutsu. But Naruto, I really don't want to see you fail again. Promise me that during the break you'll train hard. You'll study. But Iruka-sensei. I hate studying. Naruto groaned. Iruka sighed. Sorry then, Naruto. If you don't study and don't train hard, you won't be able to become Hokage, he stated bluntly. He cared for Naruto like a little brother. He wanted Naruto to succeed, and would help Naruto over the break if he could. But when Naruto became this difficult and lazy, he honestly wanted to do nothing more than give up on Naruto. He would become so hopeless sometimes. But Iruka-sensei. I have to become Hokage. It's my dream, he exclaimed. You want to be Hokage that bad? Then prove it, Iruka said with a stern voice. He paid for his meal and left Naruto to think about his words. Naruto watched Iruka walk off and sighed. Maybe Iruka-sensei is right, maybe I should be more serious about my training. I slacked off so much last break that I was way far behind the other students. Something bothering you, Naruto-kun? I am, the owner's daughter, asked. Oh hey, I am Nichan. Just thinking, he said quietly. What about? Well, right now, my skills are nowhere near where they should be. I need to study and work harder, but it's so hard and boring, Naruto whined. Well, you know how I make studying easier. I study with a friend. To me, It's more fun, she suggested with a smile. Naruto thought for a moment. Yeah, it would be. Wait a minute, that weird Hyuga girl said she wanted to train with me tomorrow. Maybe she'll train with me over the whole break. Naruto stood up, pulled out his froggy wallet, and paid Iam for his meal. Thanks, Iam Nichan. See ya later, he said with a large smile before running back to his apartment. He was honestly excited about tomorrow. Hinata woke up just before dawn. She quickly dressed in her normal attire, her black shinobi capri, black t-shirt, and her cream-colored jacket. She made her way towards the kitchens to make bento boxes for Naruto and herself. She was very thankful her father allowed her and her sister to not attend breakfast or lunch with him or with members of the main family. As she walked in, there were the branch family cooks cooking breakfast. They bowed their heads to Hinata, who smiled in return. The cooks were used to Hinata's presence in the kitchen. It wasn't unusual for her to be in there making her own breakfast or lunch. Hinata spent the next several hours making 2 delicious lunches that she prayed Naruto would enjoy. Once the meals were in their respective bento boxes, she waved to the cooks and quickly left the kitchens with a bright smile. She reached the front door and placed on her ninja sandals. She thanked Kami-sama that she didn't run into her father. If she had to explain why she had 2 bentos and why she was leaving this early, she wasn't too sure what she would tell him. She walked through the streets of Konoha, noticing that many shops and restaurants were just opening up. She headed through the forest to the training ground she was supposed to meet Naruto at. The closer she got, the more nervous she became. Her face became slightly pink, and she could feel her heart begin to pound. As she stepped out of the forest and into the clearing of the training ground, she noticed Naruto wasn't there. She blinked. She looked up towards the sky and realized it was just after sunrise. Realizing she was early, she decided to start her training. She placed the lunches by one of the 3 training logs and took her normal fighting stance. She took several deep breaths before striking the padded log with her palms. Naruto woke up with a groan. He let out a huge yawn and pulled off his nightcap. He got up out of bed with another yawn and stretched. He reached up in the air, then bent over and touched his toes. He let out a sigh and smiled. All right. Today I'm going to get serious. He turned to his clock and gasped. I overslept. He raced to his closet and began to tear off his clothes. He quickly put on his orange jumpsuit and sandals. Stupid, friggin' alarm clock. It can never go off on time, he yelled. He got out of his apartment, locked it, and raced to the training area. When Naruto finally got there, he saw Hinata striking the padded log with as much strength as she could muster. Naruto watched her for a few minutes, before he approached. Hey, Naruto said, somewhat embarrassed about being late. Hinata gasped softly and turned around. NN Naruto-kun hello. Sorry I'm late. My alarm didn't go off. Kind of a lame excuse, but I swear it's the truth. He exclaimed loudly. Hinata giggled slightly. It's okay, N Naruto-kun. I haven't been here too long. It was a lie. She had been there for a little more than 3 hours. But it wasn't a total loss. She was able to train on her own for a little while without any distractions. I know this sounds bad, but I didn't catch your name yesterday. What is it? He asked, folding his hands behind his head. Hinata blushed slightly and pushed her forefingers together. It's Hinata, her voice was almost a whisper. Hinata? That's a nice name, he said with a smile. I saw you were already training without me. You looked really good. Hinata went a bright red. He said I looked really good. Hinata couldn't help but let a small smile grace her lips. Songmi kinda went to the library last night and checked out some scrolls, he said, pulling about 6 scrolls out of his jacket. I didn't know the LL Library W was open at night, she said looking at the scrolls in his hands. They aren't. Hinata blinked. Yust stole scrolls from the LL library? Hinata was a little shocked. Why would he steal scrolls when he could just check them out? Other people at the library don't like me because I pranked the place so much as a kid. So I've been banned from going in there, he said, rubbing the back of his head. It wasn't a total lie. He was banned, but he had no idea why. The librarians would never let him get past the front door without shouting at him to get out or calling him a demon. Anyway, these scrolls have some of the basic chakra control and taijutsu styles, he said, opening a taijutsu scroll. There were so many styles. Hinata looked at him and slowly took a chakra control scroll. They seemed to sit and read their scrolls for hours. What Hinata read, it seemed to get her thinking. In the Juken style, we aim for precision, but we tend to use more chakra in case our aim is off so we can still shut down tenketsu. From what Oda-sama taught me, Hyugas are great at chakra control, but we aren't masters. She continued to read about simple chakra control exercises, leaf concentration, walking on trees, and walking on water. She nodded as she read and continued down the scroll. Naruto was reading over the different forms of taijutsu styles. There are so many styles: crane, tiger, panther, snake, dragon, monkey, mantis, lotus. How do I figure out which one belongs to me? Well, let's start with crane. Crane style. The crane style embodies elegance, patience and evasion. The crane style is more of a defensive style of taijutsu, rather than offensive. Tiger style. The tiger style is one of power, directness, and simplicity. For the tiger style, footwork is minimal, only being used to interfere. A tiger style user must have good ground contact to develop its power. The tiger style will allow you to discover the power of simplicity and directness. Panther style. The panther style is for those who promotes thinking, strategy, and cunning. The panther style is for users who think their opponents can be outthought, outmaneuvered, and outclassed. A panther user prefers to dodge and hide, but in the most honorable of ways. Serpent style. The serpent style is one for wisdom, knowledge, precision, experience, and clarity. The serpent style isn't one for offense, nor is it one for defense. It is a style of order and control, not of random strikes. It is a style of power without violence, speed without haste, and knowledge without dominance. Naruto read the first 5 styles and none of them seemed to fit him at all. He thought maybe the tiger style would, but he liked to use his feet in fights. There was no way he'd be able to keep good ground. He read over several others. None of them would work for him either. But he finally found one he thought would work. The dragon style. The dragon style is one of concentration, willpower, hard work, and protection. Dragon style users are known more for spiral types of attacks. The dragon style is like the serpent style in a sense. It isn't one for offense or defense. The dragon style is one for creating peace, harmony, and safety. Naruto read the basic information on the dragon style and smiled. This sounded perfect. He didn't particularly like to fight. He just wanted to protect the ones he loved and his village. That was the reason he wanted to be a shinobi. He was about to continue reading about the dragon style when he heard his stomach growl. He looked down and blushed slightly. Hinata was brought out of her concentration when she heard Naruto's stomach growl. She looked at Naruto and giggled. "Hey, are you hungry, and Naruto-kun?" she asked, wrapping up her scroll. Yeah. I kinda forgot to eat breakfast," he replied with a laugh. It's okay, and Naruto-kun. I made some bentos," she said, grabbing the bento boxes. She handed one to Naruto, and placed one in her lap. "Wow, Hinata. Thanks a lot," he exclaimed, opening the bento. "Kami, Hinata. This looks delicious." Inside the bento were 3 onigiri, tempura fried shrimp, tempura fried vegetables, and some tsunamono. Naruto stared at the food, practically salivating over himself. I don't know where to start. He picked up an onigiri and bit into it. He nearly teared up. This is the best thing I've ever tasted that isn't ramen, he exclaimed. He began to practically shove the onigiri in his mouth. Hinata watched him eat and giggled. She broke her chopsticks and began to eat as well, but she started with the fried vegetables. While they ate, Naruto praised Hinata on her cooking, and told her of the latest prank he was planning. "And Naruto-kun, I don't think the V Village W would like it if you painted the Hokage M monument," she said, nibbling on her onigiri. "But it'll be funny," he exclaimed, poking the Tsunamono with his chopsticks. "What is this stuff, Hinata?" "Tsunamono. It's a sea cucumber salad in sweet V vinegar," she explained, taking another bite of her food. "It's really tasty and Naruto-kun." Naruto stared at it, and poked it a little more. He picked up a few slices of cucumber and sniffed it. He put it in his mouth, chewed and swallowed. "Wow! That is tasty," he exclaimed, taking more of the cucumber slices. Hinata, would you come back tomorrow?" I think it would be more fun to train if I had a friend to train with," he said, eating more. Hinata dropped her chopsticks onto her bento box. Her eyes were wide, her mouth hung open a little, and a bright blush was spread across her face. Friend? Are we? Are you okay, Hinata?" Naruto asked, trying out his fried vegetables. It was a carrot. "Is this a carrot? Wow! This tastes so much better than a normal fresh one," he exclaimed, biting it again. Hinata slowly nodded. "And Naruto-kun are we friends?" she asked, gripping her pants tightly. "Huh? Well, yeah. You've been so nice to me, and made me a bento, and we're gonna train together." "Yeah, I think we're friends," Naruto answered, holding out his hand. Hinata blushed, and slowly reached out. She took his hand, and Naruto began to shake it. Naruto let go and stared at Hinata's bento. Hinata? Aren't you going to eat your shrimp? It's so good. You know. I don't like shrimp, she said with a blush. Would you like it? She asked, holding out her bento. Naruto nodded and took the shrimp, quickly downing them. Did you enjoy the lunch? Oh yeah. It was so good. I love ramen, but this homemade lunch was fantastic. Naruto answered with a smile. So, what did you learn? He asked, handing her back the bento. Basic chakra control. See, can I borrow this? I want to practice at home, she said, holding the scroll. Sure. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow we'll do some real training. Not just reading. Bye Hinata, he said, running off with a wave. Hinata blinked. He was so spontaneous. She giggled lightly. She looked on the ground and grabbed a leaf. Hinata remembered what she read about the leaf exercise. Channel chakra to the point where the leaf is. Concentrate on that specific point to keep the leaf from falling. Hinata also read to start the leaf on a larger surface on the body, such as the forehead, the palm of the hand, back of the hand, etc. Hinata placed it on the palm of her hand, and channeled some chakra to the leaf. She continued to channel the chakra as she walked through the forest. The leaf fell twice, due to her losing concentration because a sudden breeze picked up. She walked through town, staring at the leaf in complete concentration. She reached the Hyuga compound, where she heard her sister and her father sparring. Hanabi and Hiashi stopped and watched Hinata. Hiashi was a little confused as to why she had a leaf in her palm. Hinata, what are you doing? He asked a little sternly. Concentrating, Oto-sama, she answered quietly. She turned her palm over, still channeling her chakra to the leaf. The leaf continued to stick to Hinata's palm, while her hand turned upside down. Hinata was still concentrating, but smiled slightly to herself. She turned her palm over, so that her palm was right side up again. She stopped channeling her chakra, and let go of the leaf. I did it. Hinata. Hinata turned around and saw her father and sister staring at her. Hi. What were you doing? He asked, sliding his arms into the opposite sleeves. I was doing chakra CC control. W was the L leaf X exercise, she stuttered. I could see that. He frowned slightly. It's good to see you taking your training seriously, he said, before turning back to Hanabi. We are done for the day, Hanabi. Clean up for supper. You too, Hinata, he ordered, going back into the house. Hanabi bowed to her father. She ran over to Hinata and smiled happily. Wow, Ne-san. That was cool what you did with the leaf. Could you teach me? She asked excitedly. Hanabi loved to learn, even though Hiashi practically shoved knowledge down her throat. Maybe when you're a little older, Hanabi-chan, she replied with a bright smile. So how was training with Uzumaki-san? Hanabi asked, gently poking her sister with her elbow. Hanabi-chan. She blushed. It was nice. We mostly read, she answered, fiddling with the hem of her jacket. It was nice. I think tomorrow will do more than just read. Well, that's good. I think Oda-sama is happy with you, she said with a nod. Why you think so? Yeah. He didn't sound quite so cold when he spoke to you. She nodded. Come on, Ne-san. I want a bath, she exclaimed, tugging Hinata's arm. Naruto was back at Ichiraku's eating a bowl of pork miso ramen. The third Hokage was sitting next to him, eating some vegetable ramen. So, Naruto, the library was broken into. Do you know anything about it? Sarutobi asked, eyeing Naruto. Yeah, it was me, he said, slurping more noodles. I wanted some scrolls to study. The librarian wouldn't let me borrow them. Why not? I sent them a letter saying you were allowed in the library. He was shocked. He even received a letter from the librarians saying they received it. Yeah, well, apparently, the note was either lost or misplaced, because they can't find any record of the letter, he said, sipping down the bowl of ramen broth. It's okay, old man. I got what I needed. You know, for the most part. He patted his stomach, content and full. Sarutobi's face darkened. He was rather upset that the librarians misplaced his letter, and were keeping Naruto out of the library. He would have to talk to the librarians. Anyway, Naruto, why did you want those scrolls? Well, me and this girl named Hinata are training together. I figured I could borrow some scrolls to help our training. Sarutobi was shocked. Not only because Naruto was taking his training seriously by borrowing scrolls, but because he was training with the one person that cared about Naruto more than anyone else. Well, Naruto, I'm glad for you. I wish you luck in your training. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must get home. My grandson is waiting for me. Sarutobi paid for both his meal and Naruto's and left the stand. Bye. And thanks, old man. He waved. Naruto thanked Ayame and Tucci for the ramen and went to his apartment. He opened it up and went to his room. Dropping the scrolls on his bed, he began reading again. He read more about the dragon style, and the other scrolls he had on basic chakra control. He would pass this coming year. He wanted to get stronger, and be smarter. He would do it. He had to. Over the next several days, Hinata and Naruto met at their training grounds to continue their basic training. They would either read or practice what they had read. Naruto took to the dragon style like a fish to water. It was like the style was made for him, the moves flowed from his body so naturally. Hinata was also improving. The girl was able to move the leaf around her body. She wasn't able to keep her concentration for long. Moving the leaf around her body, while keeping it stuck to herself, used more chakra than just keeping the leaf from falling. She could move the leaf up her arm and up to her forehead, but that was when her concentration would break. Today, Naruto was going to test his dragon style on Hinata in a sparring match, and Hinata was going to help him with his chakra control. Their plan was to work on Naruto's chakra control first. Alright Naruto-kun. I've been practicing the L-leaf exercise and it's actually quite simple, she said with a soft smile. You take the leaf and place it on your forehead, or on your hand. Naruto nodded and placed the lead on his forehead, tilting his head back slightly so it wouldn't fall off on its own. Now channel your chakra to the leaf. Be but not a loto, okay? Okay. He closed his eyes and focused on channeling his chakra to the leaf. Now slowly tilt your head forward. Make sure you're still channeling your chakra. Naruto did as he was told. He slowly lifted his head until it was back in its upright position. Gee good, she said happily. Naruto opened his eyes and smiled happily at her praise but lost his concentration, and the leaf fell from his forehead. Damn it, he cursed. Hinata smiled. It's okay Naruto. Why you learn by trial and error. Do it again. The blonde nodded. He repeated the procedure, tilting his head back, placing the leaf on his forehead, channeling his chakra, and lifting his head upright. Now don't lose your concentration. If you breaketh L-leaf will fall. Naruto didn't say anything, but he understood. He sat in an almost meditative state for several minutes, before Hinata spoke again. Gee good job Naruto-kun. Why you can take the leaf off your forehead. Naruto opened his eyes and took the leaf off his forehead. Why'd you stop me? He asked curiously. I want to tell you something. Her lavender eyes were focused more on the ground than on Naruto. I want you to continue doing the L-leaf exercise but I'm going to try to distract you. I don't want you to lose your concentration, okay? The brunette stated. Naruto nodded. Alright. Do your worst, he said with a cheeky grin. Hinata nodded. She stood up and waited for Naruto to begin. He placed the leaf on his forehead, closed his eyes, and channeled. Hinata smiled slightly. She walked over to one of the training logs and took the juken stance. She took in a deep breath and began to strike the log. Every time she hit the log, it made a soft, thud noise. Every time she struck the log, she let out a loud exhale. Normally a haya or a ha. Naruto could hear her practicing and attempted to tune her out. He was able to do so for about 10 minutes before he started getting bored. Naruto wasn't usually one for sitting still for long. The leaf began to wobble on top of his sun-kissed forehead. Naruto scrunched his nose and squeezed his crystal blue eyes shut, still trying to keep the leaf on his forehead. Hinata turned to see how Naruto was faring. She noticed his face and couldn't help but giggle. Naruto started taking a few deep breaths, trying to get himself to calm down, and not feel quite so bored and tense in his concentration. Hinata smiled and walked over to Naruto and sat beside him. She began to wave her hands in front of his face. Naruto wasn't budging, and neither was the leaf. Hinata thought a second. Then an idea hit the brunette. She slowly reached towards the blonde with hesitant hands. She stopped mere inches from the blonde's body before she reached with her right hand, her index finger extended. Hinata poked Naruto's side and quickly pulled away. She noticed Naruto quiver slightly, but no change other than that. She began to slowly poke him on different places. His neck, arms, legs, and ribs. Whenever Hinata would poke his side, he would start to lose his concentration. Her movements quickened and soon the leaf fell off his forehead, and he began to laugh. Stop tickling me. Hinata pulled her hands away, and grabbed the hem of her sweatshirt. Sorry, she said sadly, her lavender eyes downcast. Naruto blinked. I'm not mad, Hinata. I mean, you managed to break my concentration, and I was trying so hard to keep it in, he laughed. Hinata blushed and smiled. Why, you were doing a good job, Naruto-kun. Thanks, Hinata. What do you say we do some sparring? I need to stretch my muscles before I get stuck like this, he said, standing up. Naruto touched his toes and stood up with a smile. All right. I'm ready for a little sparring. Hinata nodded and took her stance. I am ready, Naruto-kun. Naruto nodded and took his own stance. He took a deep breath, trying to recollect what he had learned. Okay, shall we establish rules first? Hinata nodded. All right. Obviously we'll hold back. I don't want to seriously hurt you and I don't need to be seriously hurt. He chuckled nervously. No punches to the head or below the belt, if you know what I mean. Naruto blushed. He wasn't the only one. Hinata's face was redder than a tomato. Are we good? Hinata nodded. All right. He took a deep breath once more before charging at Hinata. He threw the first punch, and Hinata quickly countered the punch with a palm thrust. In the Juken style, one usually counters with another strike. Those who choose to dodge rather than counter are usually more flexible than the average person, so their feet can remain firmly on the ground. Naruto then brought up his knee to strike her in the stomach. Hinata brought her palm down and struck the top of Naruto's knee. Naruto gasped and backed up a few steps, holding his knee. It hurt. Normally a strike to the knee didn't hurt so much. Wow, that was a powerful strike. He began to move and flex his knee to get some feeling back in it. That's the Juken style, Hinata said with a small smile. Awesome. Maybe you could teach it to me, Naruto said excitedly. I don't think so, Naruto-kun. The Juken style is a Taijutsu only known by the Hyuga clan, Hinata said, straightening up. I am trying to get better at it. Well, you're already good. Naruto exclaimed. Oh. Well, thank you. Hinata blushed and pushed her forefingers together. It's a very special style. The Juken style targets P pressure points and tenketsu. It tends to render an opponent helpless. How? Naruto blinked. Well, your knee for example. I struck a P pressure point in your knee. Temporarily numbing itc, correct? Hinata asked quietly. Well, yeah. I can feel it now. It's a little sore, but yeah, it was numb. Hinata nodded slightly. The Hyuga clan we're taught how to target P pressure points at a young age. Or Kekii Genkai allows us to see tenketsu to stop chakra flow through your body. Naruto stared at Hinata in disbelief. No way. Remind me to never make you mad, Hinata, he laughed. Hinata giggled. Oh, okay, Naruto-kun. Now shall we continue? She asked, taking her stance. Naruto nodded. Yeah. Just try not to paralyze me, he joked. Hinata nodded, and the two continued their sparring match. After several hours of non-stop sparring, Naruto was laying on his back, drenched in sweat. His chest rose and fell rather frequently with labored breath. He turned to Hinata, who was sitting next to him and rather sweaty as well. You really strong, the blonde panted. You think so? Hinata asked. She was gasping for breath just as much as the blonde, blue-eyed ninja next to her. Yeah. Naruto sat up and smiled. You were great, Hinata. Your style is so awesome. I am gonna be bruised and sore for a week. He nodded. Hinata blushed. She couldn't believe Naruto was praising her so much. She blinked and looked over at Naruto when she heard his stomach growl. Naruto blushed himself. Guess I worked up an appetite. Hinata giggled. She gasped when she heard her own stomach growl. She quickly covered her stomach with her hands and blushed brightly. Naruto laughed. I guess you're hungry too. Come on, Hinata. Let's get lunch. My treat, he said happily. Hinata stared into the crystal pools on the beautiful sun-kissed face of her crush. Her face was as red as a rose. She couldn't believe he was asking her to lunch. Oh my. He asked me on a date. Hinata slowly nodded. Great. Let's go. He quickly jumped up to his feet. Just the thought of ramen instantly energized the blonde. He helped Hinata up and happily led the way. Hinata was getting increasingly nervous. The closer they got to town, the more she felt like running away. Her heart was beating out of her chest. How am I going to stay conscious if I continue to act like this? My heart is beating 1,000,000 miles a minute and my face is hotter than the sun. There is no way I can do this. Look, Hinata. There it is. Naruto exclaimed. Hinata took in her surroundings. They were already out of the forest. How could she not have realized it? Hinata saw Naruto run ahead of her and sit down on a chair at a small stand. She slowly walked up to the stand and sat beside him. What is this place, and Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Her lavender eyes roamed the small food stand. It was rather plain and a little run down, but the aroma emitting from the kitchen was heavenly. This is Ichiraku's. The best place ever to eat ramen. I love this place so much, he said in a slightly dreamy tone. Hello, Naruto, called Ayam. Oh, you brought a friend. Welcome to our stand. The woman bowed. Thank you, Hinata said, bowing her head to the girl. 2M Hinata Hyuga, Hinata added shyly. The girl gasped. Hyuga? Thank you for choosing our small restaurant to eat at, Hyuga-sama. My father and I are honored. Never before had a Hyuga eaten at Ichiraku's. Yup. That's Hinata. We've been training together for the past several days. Naruto said with a smile. Hey old man. Naruto waved to Ayam's father. Naruto. It's good to see you, my boy. And who is your friend? He said, turning to the brunette. This is Hinata. She's my new friend. Naruto practically shouted. Can we order now? Naruto asked, practically salivating. Naruto. Don't be rude. Maybe Hinata-san would like to chat before her meal. Ayam scolded. Naruto mumbled an apology. So Hinata-san, how'd you come to know Naruto? I saw him, she saw Naruto out of the corner of her eye, and saw that he looked slightly uncomfortable. I saw him training one day. I didn't mean to spy. He saw me watching and we struck up a conversation, she lied. Well, part of it was a lie. She did spy, and he was training when she was caught. But this girl didn't need to know about Naruto's breakdown. He asked T to train with me, and we became friends, she said with a slight blush. Naruto nodded. She's also a good cook. She made me a bento box once, and I swear I am Chan. Her cooking might stop me from coming here for every meal, the blonde exclaimed. Chuji, Ayam's father and the owner of Ichiraku's, came out of the kitchen. Really? He asked. He was listening in on the conversation. You must be one hell of a cook to keep Naruto from coming here for a meal. Chuji smiled. He loved Naruto, and the boy was his best customer, but he was honestly happy that Naruto had made a friend and wasn't living off ramen for every meal. So kids, what do you want? He said with a smile. I want some pork miso ramen. Naruto shouted happily. Hinata silently giggled at the blonde's enthusiasm over ramen. She took a quick glance over the menu, before looking up at Chuji. I would like some sea curry chicken ramen, please, she said with a small smile. Chuji smiled. Coming right up. He walked into the kitchen and began preparing his food. Ayam leaned over the counter and whispered into Naruto's ear. Naruto-kun, perhaps you shouldn't order too much ramen. 2 to 3 bowls maximum. Why? Naruto whined. Because you don't want Hinata-san to see you eat that much. She could think of you as some sort of disgusting pig and not want to be your friend because of the way you eat. Ayam explained. Naruto's eyes widened. He couldn't lose Hinata as his friend. She was his only friend. He looked at Ayam and nodded. Naruto turned to Hinata. The lavender-eyed girl was sitting patiently in her seat, gently swinging her feet to and fro. Hinata? Naruto began. Hinata turned to Naruto, her cheeks slightly tinted pink. Why yes? What should we do next? You know, in our training. You've helped me a lot in my chakra control, and let me tell you. My chakra control sucked. Naruto nodded. And you also helped me with my taijutsu, which was just as bad. But I think we should take it up to the next level. Naruto exclaimed. Hinata agreed. While working on their chakra control and taijutsu was necessary, they needed to do more. Perhaps, they should work more on stamina and ninjutsu. Alright. When shall we work on them? Naruto thought. I dunno. Maybe tomorrow, he said with a smile. His smile grew when Chuji brought out their meals. Alright. Pork miso ramen for Naruto, he said, placing the large bowl in front of Naruto. And a curry chicken ramen for his friend, he said, giving Hinata her ramen. Enjoy. Thanks, old man. Naruto smiled and broke his chopstick. I hope you like it, Hinata. Ramen is so good. He shouted before digging into his bowl. Hinata giggled and took her own pair of chopstick and broke them. Itadakimasu, she quickly spoke before taking her first taste of her ramen. In all honesty, she thought the ramen would be slightly fatty and bland. She was completely wrong. Her particular ramen was full of flavor. The curry chicken and the curry flavoring of the broth wasn't too spicy but had enough kick. She could taste other ingredients that made her taste buds soar. It was very delicious. She wasn't sure if she could eat ramen every meal of every day like Naruto. But it would be a very delicious treat to have every once in a while. So? Does it taste good, Hinata? Naruto asked before putting more noodles in his mouth. Why yes. Hinata said after she swallowed her food. It's very delicious, she added, eating more of her meal. While the two preteens ate, the Hokage joined them. He was looking in his crystal ball, and saw the two at Ichiraku's. He figured a little visit and officially meeting Naruto's first friend was a good idea. He sat with the two children as they ate, joining them in their conversation. The two preteens ate their meals happily. Naruto would talk about pranks he's pulled in the past. Currently he was telling a prank he pulled on the Hokage. It was so funny. I totally put ink in his tea, and after he drank his tea, he had a black ink mustache. He couldn't get it off for a week. The owners, and Hinata, laughed along with Naruto. Even the Hokage chuckled. It was rather embarrassing, especially since he had a very important meeting that day, but it was also humorous. Hinata, came a sharp tone. Hinata froze. Naruto, Hiruzen, Ayam, and Chuji looked towards the voice. Hinata, however, couldn't turn around. Hinata. What are you doing here? Hey! Don't talk to Hinata like that. She's eating lunch with me. Is that a problem? Naruto growled. The man frowned. I shall speak to my daughter in any way I see fit. Hinata. Tell me. Why are you with this delinquent? Hiashi chose his words wisely. Hiruzen frowned. Hiashi. I do not like that tone you are taking, especially to your daughter. Forgive me, Hokage-sama, he ground out. Hinata. Come. We're going home, he commanded. Hinata slowly got up. She glanced at Naruto with apologetic eyes, before walking to her father. Her lavender eyes were fixated on the ground. She wouldn't dare look up at her father. Good. We're going home. He bowed to the Hokage, and Hinata did the same. Then they left. Naruto blinked and looked at Hiruzen. Hey old man. Who was that? Naruto asked. Hyuga Hiashi. Head of the Hyuga clan. He's very stern and cold. He used to be more genuine and gentle. He changed when his wife died, Hiruzen explained. Naruto turned back to the fading figures of Hinata and her father. Don't worry, Naruto. I'll go check on Hinata later this evening. Deal? Naruto hugged Hiruzen and yelled a thank you. Hiruzen chuckled and ruffled Naruto's blonde hair. When Hiashi and Hinata reached the Hyuga compound, Hiashi wasted no time in dealing with Hinata. How dare you, he yelled. You dare go near that boy. His yelling quickly gained the attention of surrounding Hyugas, including Hinata's cousin, Neji. Hinata flinched at the tone of voice. She wanted nothing more than to cry, but she knew better. Hinata just stood there and waited for any more yelling that might come her way. Hiashi crossed his arms over his chest and glared down at his daughter. You will tell me why you were with that demon. Naruto-kun isn't a demon. She spoke. She flinched seeing the harsh glare her father was giving her. Wrong answer, he growled. Tell me. Why were you with him? He was willing to unleash more wrath upon her if she did not talk. Naruto-kun invited me to lunch, she stated bluntly, with no stutter or fear in her voice. When her father became harsh towards her, Hinata went into an emotionless state of mind, so she could handle the abuse. Hiashi was growing angry. You will not see him again. Let me repeat that. You will not see him again. And you are confined to the compound until you have learned your lesson, he commanded. Hinata muttered a quiet, yes, Oto-sama, and Hiashi went to his room. She turned to the others and gave them a kind smile. Forgive me for that horrid scene. Hinata bowed to the other Hyugas before retreating to her room. Once she shut her door, she slumped to the ground and finally let the tears she had been holding in fall freely. Why? Why does he hate me? Why doesn't he want me to see Naruto-kun? Hinata sat there, silently crying into her hands. Hinata jumped when she heard a knock at her door. She quickly wiped the tears from her eyes and took a deep breath before opening the door. Her lavender eyes widened. En Neji and Ai-san? Neji nodded. Good afternoon, Hinata-sama, he said with a slight bow. May I come in? I wish to speak with you. Hinata stepped aside and allowed Neji to enter her room. Hinata's room was very simple. Most of the room was beige, like all the other rooms in the compound. However, Hinata had added her own personal touches with lavender bedding, some fresh orchids by her window, and 2 pictures. One was of her family, her father, mother, infant sister, and herself. The other took Neji by surprise. It was a picture of Neji himself and Hinata as children, before his father was killed. Neji turned to Hinata and took a deep breath. You held yourself well, Hinata-sama. Hinata blinked. Was Neji complimenting her? I don't know what I would have done if my father. Neji stopped, unable to finish the sentence. You stood ground against Hiashi-sama. You were strong, a word I would not have used to describe you. Hinata stared at her cousin for a moment, then smiled and took his hand. Neji-nizen, may I ask a favor of you? You may, he said with a small nod. You're very strong, and very intelligent. Why you've been called a genius? Please help me train, the brunette requested. Neji was taken back by her request. Please Neji Nizan. I know MIS strength I isn't that great. I've been trying but I will never match your skill on my own. I want to be able to go into the A Academy this year and be already. I want to be confident and not so timid, especially about my power, Hinata said with a sigh. She wanted to be strong, she just needed help. Neji looked at his cousin and nodded. Yes, I shall help you with your training. I do have missions that require my attention first, but, once I am sent back home, I shall help you with your training. That reminds me Neji Nizan. What is your team like? She instantly noticed the haunted look on her cousin's face. Nizan? Neji quickly returned his usual stoic face. My team is interesting, he said bluntly. How so? Hinata blinked. My sensei is very enthusiastic. Enthusiastic? Enthusiastic like? Neji sighed. He shouts and spurts strange nonsense about the flames of youth. One of my teammates is a spitting image of our sensei. I believed at first that they were father and son, but they are not related. Neji didn't sound too enthused about his team. However, he can only use Taijutsu. I examined his chakra system with the Byakugan and his chakra coils are very small, almost non-existent. What about your team Kekunoichi? Hinata asked. She is a weapon specialist who possesses deadly aim, Neji explained. I must sigh, as much as I despise my sensei at the moment, I do believe our team could be powerful and cohesive. Hinata was pleasantly surprised. Neji was changing before her eyes. Neji Nizan, I don't mean to sound rude, but what happened to your destiny mentality? She was quiet. She really didn't want to offend her cousin. Why you always thought our destinies were laid before us? Do you continue to think like that? Neji looked at his cousin and shook his head slightly. We all have destinies, Hinata-sama. However, we should be able to make our own destinies. You have shown me that today. Too did? Yes. I have always seen you as weak, a pushover, and a timid failure, he admitted. However, when Hiashi-sama attacked you today and you stood your ground, I realized that you were not weak or a pushover. He paused a moment, then added, however, you are still timid. Hinata sighed. I know and wish to overcome my timidness. I do not wish to be afraid or freeze you up when I am on a mission, she said, pushing her index fingers together. Then our training starts now. Before we work on stamina or your juken style, we will work on your stutter and your timidness, he said firmly. If you stutter when to speak to me, you will have to perform some sort of physical exercise and it will not be pleasant. It will not be easy, Hinata-sama, and I will not go easy on you. Of course, she said firmly. She would do this, and she would do this right. Neji gave his cousin a small smirk. Excellent. We shall begin tomorrow afternoon when I return from my missions. He bowed to his cousin and turned to leave. Neji Nizan. Hinata called. Neji turned around and made eye contact. When we're in training, you don't have to call me Hinata-sama. Hinata is fine. She struggled, but she managed to not stutter. Stuttering had become a force of habit. Neji nodded, bowed again, and left. Hinata smiled slightly to herself before leaving her room. She wasn't going to hide from her father, or the rest of the clan. She would walk out with pride and confidence. Well, as much pride and confidence as she could muster. As Hinata walked out towards the courtyard, she saw her father speaking with the third Hokage. I wish to speak with you and your daughter, Hiashi, Hiruzen spoke. He looked fairly stern and serious. Hiashi frowned. I believe you cannot at the moment, Hokage-sama. She is being punished at the moment, he responded with a glare. Hiruzen saw Hinata behind her father and smiled cheerfully. Hinata, how wonderful to see you again. Will you come here? He asked gently. Hiashi turned around and saw Hinata approaching them. Hinata, does your father know why you were with Naruto this afternoon? A little, the young girl answered, then turned to her father. Naruto-kun and I have been training for the last few days, and he was treating me to lunch after a training session, she explained to her father. Hiashi frowned. You were training with that boy? Hinata noticed her father almost let slip a word he did not want to say. And it didn't go unnoticed by Hiruzen either. Yes, we've been training together and I've already gotten stronger, Ota-sama. We shall see about that, Hinata. He turned back to Hiruzen. If that is all you wish to discuss, Hokage-sama, I will return to my home. Actually, I want to talk to Hinata alone. Hiruzen noticed Hayashi's anger. Hiashi gave a small grunt before walking back to his home. Hinata, did he do anything to you when you came home? Hinata stared at the Hokage for a few moments before hanging her head and giving him a quick no. The aged Hokage stared at Hinata for a moment then sighed. All right, Hinata. It's okay. Also, Naruto wants to know if you're okay. Hinata's cheeks flushed and she fiddled with the hem of her jacket. Tell him I am fine, I promise. She was nervous now, but Naruto was also worried about her. Hokage-sama? Hinata whispered. What is it, child? He said with a grandfatherly smile. Can you tell Naruto-kun to train hard and to get stronger and that I'll try to see him if I can, she asked with a shy smile. Hinata felt the Hokage's hand on top of her head as he gave her a soft smile. I will, Hinata. And thank you for being Naruto's friend, he answered, his smile never wavering. I think I shall take my leave. Your father does not seem too pleased with my speaking to you. Hinata, if anything happens please come to me, he told her. Thank you, Hokage-sama, she said, giving him a respectful bow. Excuse me, Hokage-sama. I must get back to Ota-sama. She bowed again before turning to go back to the house. Hiruzen smiled and left the compound. As he walked out, he found Naruto waiting for him. Naruto? What did Hinata say, old man? Naruto asked, looking at him with sad, pleading eyes. She wants you to continue to train and be strong. She isn't sure when she can see you again, but she will try her hardest. She also said she will continue to train hard, he said, ruffling the boy's spiky hair. Will she still be my friend? Naruto asked quietly. Yes, Naruto. She still very much wants to be your friend. Things are just complicated, he said with a somewhat forced smile. Come. Let's get you back to your apartment, and I'll explain more. Okay? Naruto nodded and the two walked back towards the main part of the village. When Hinata walked into her home, Hiashi was standing there with an angry scowl on his face. What did the Hokage want, Hinata? He growled. He wanted to talk to me about my training with Naruto-kun, Hinata said timidly. Hiashi glared at her. It's the truth, Ota-sama. Hiashi growled. You are not to leave the compound again until your classes start at the academy. Understood, he roared. Hinata's eyes widened. Why yes, Ota-sama. She bowed to him begrudgingly and walked to her room as swiftly as she could. As she rushed to her room, her sister had taken notice of Hinata's sad face and misty eyes and quickly followed. Ne-san? Hanabi asked hesitantly. Not here, Hanabi, Hinata said quietly. When the sisters reached her room, Hinata broke down. She fell to her knees, hugged her sister, and sobbed. En-Nizan? Hanabi gasped. She knelt down next to her sister and hugged her back, letting Hinata cry. What happened, Ne-san? He found out I was training with Naruto-kun, she sighed. I want to continue training with him, but if father finds out I am afraid he won't let me attend the academy. So what are you going to do? Hanabi asked. For now I'm going to train with Neji. And if I can I'm going to try and train with Naruto, if possible, she said with a sigh. Taking a deep breath, she added more confidently, it'll be difficult, but I will try to see him. Hanabi smiled. You're changing, Nei-san. I like the change. Hinata blushed slightly at her sister's compliment. Thank you, Hanabi-chan. The Hyuga sisters then took the opportunity to talk about the rest of their day and other insignificant topics. Naruto sat in his apartment, eating his instant ramen in deep thought. I don't understand why Hinata's dad got so uptight about her eating lunch with me. I didn't do anything wrong, did I? Naruto stared at his half-eaten ramen and made his decision. I'm gonna go ask her. He quickly downed the rest of his ramen before running out of his house. Naruto must have wandered around for hours trying to find the Hyuga compound. When he was there earlier, he had followed the old man there. He hadn't been paying attention to any landmarks on the way there or anything like that. Damn it. Where is this frickin' place? He yelled. "En Naruto-kun," came a soft voice. Naruto blinked and turned around. He saw Hinata poking her head out of a window. Hinata. All right. I finally found your house. So what's up? Is everything okay? He said, walking over to the window. Hinata blushed. He came to check on me. Hinata smiled slightly. Oh Otosama, I isn't too happy. I don't know why. Hinata thanked Kami. Her room was the closest to the front of the compound. 2W want to apologize for Otosama being so mean to you. I didn't like it. Naruto stared at her for a moment. She's apologizing. No one's apologized to me before. Naruto smiled. It's fine, Hinata. Listen, old man Hokage told me that you would continue to train hard. So will I. Hinata blushed and giggled slightly. Thank you, Naruto-kun. I promise I will train hard, too. But Otosama W won't let me leave the C compound U until the A Academy classes start again. I'm really sorry, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, hanging her head. Naruto smiled. It's okay, Hinata. I'm not angry. Well, I am kinda upset we can't train together, but it's okay. It's not your fault and it's not like you don't want to train with me, right? Hinata smiled. I wish I could still train with you and Naruto-kun. It's okay. We'll train as much as we can separately. And when we can train together again, I wanna see how good you got. Okay? Naruto said enthusiastically. Why yes. I would like to see how strong you've become, also, Hinata said with a shy smile. Who's there? Yelled a patrolling branch member. En Naruto-kun. Run. Hinata said, panicking. Alright. See you around, Hinata. Naruto called before disappearing before the branch member could arrive. When the branch member did arrive, he saw Hinata resting against her window. Hinata-sama? Was that you speaking? Why yeah. There was a squirrel and I spoke to it, she answered with a forced smile. The branch member smiled back, bowed, and returned to his post. Naruto was sitting on top of Hokage Mountain, more specifically, he was perched atop the fourth Hokage's head. He was really happy that he and Hinata were still friends despite the drama earlier. He wanted to get stronger. He just wasn't quite sure how, other than hard work. Suddenly, a thought occurred to him. Maybe Iruka-sensei will know what to do, he said happily. He stood up from his sitting position and looked over the village. I will be Hokage, he said quietly, then raised his voice and yelled out, you better watch out, Konoha. I will be Hokage one day. Again, came a sharp command. Hinata took a deep breath before she began to channel chakra into her fingertips. Good. Now, activate your Byakugan, came her cousin Neji's voice. Hinata gave a small nod and activated her Kekei Genkai. Good, Hinata. You're able to activate it without speaking, Neji said with a smirk. You may rest for a few moments. Okay Neji-Nizan, she said with labored breath. Hinata quickly sat down on the ground, Neji joining her. You're progressing well, Hinata, Neji said, sitting next to her. You're not quite caught up to where I was last year, but you've improved far better than I thought you would. He gave his cousin a small smile along with his complimentary words. Thank you, Hinata was still panting. For the past 2 months Hinata had undergone fairly rigorous training under Neji's watch. He had been teaching her all he could about the Byakugan, ninjutsu, and the Juken style. Under Neji's training, Hinata had become much stronger. The elders began to finally start seeing Hinata as the heiress she was. Her father hadn't criticized her as much as he used to, and she even stopped stuttering. Hinata was a little wary of Neji's sudden change of opinion in regards to her at first, but she gave him a chance, and he proved himself to her. She saw him legitimately try to be less cold to other main family members, as well as his own branch members. Neji became less antisocial, although he still didn't speak much. He mainly spoke when spoken to, or when giving his opinion. Hinata was genuinely happy to have her cousin come to peace with his inner demons. Neji stood up and looked down at Hinata. In a commanding tone, he told her, okay. There's one last thing I wish for you to do before we end our training session. Hinata nodded and stood up. I wish for you to come at me with your strongest attack. Neji and I-san, are you sure that is a wise decision? I'm rather tired and my chakra is nearly run out. Not to mention you aren't in much better shape, Hinata reasoned. I understand that. However, it is the last thing you need to do before we are finished. I believe you should be able to handle such a feat, he chuckled. As you wish, Neji-Nizan, Hinata took her stance and quickly charged at her cousin. The two exchanged blows, before Hinata began her attack. Hakusenjuni Sho. Hinata started with a double palm strike, then 2 strikes, then 4, then 8, and then with the final 16, finishing the 32 strikes. When Hinata hit the final chakra point, Neji flew back several feet. Hinata took several deep breaths and jogged over to her cousin. Neji-Nizan, are you alright? She said, kneeling next to him. Yes, he groaned. Please release my chakra points. Hinata nodded and did what she was asked. Neji sat up with another groan, but he was smiling proudly at his younger cousin. I think our training is complete, Hinata. You've learned everything I have to teach you. Hinata stared at Neji in shock. Are you sure I'm ready? Neji nodded. Hinata was smiling from ear to ear. Thank you, Neji-Nizan. Neji nodded. Now, I suggest you relax before your father calls you for dinner. You have trained very hard today. Hinata bowed to Neji before leaving the courtyard. Hinata wanted, and desperately needed, a bath. As she walked to the hot springs, she had noticed her father approaching her. She inwardly groaned but stood up straight and bowed to him. Good afternoon, Ota-sama, she said with an emotionless tone. She had become cold to her father. She still loved him, he was still her father, after all, and she was still hoping she'd see the man he used to be before her mother died. In the meantime, however, a cold manner was her best method of protecting herself from the pain he could otherwise inflict upon her heart. Hinata. What are you doing? He asked coldly. I'm going to bathe, Ota-sama. I have been training, and I am rather dirty. I do not wish to be so when it is time for supper, she stated bluntly. Hiashi stared at his daughter with cold and judging eyes. Humph. Continue on then, he grunted out. Hinata watched as her father walked away, before sticking her tongue out at his back. She walked into the room with the hot springs and sighed in relief. Hinata quickly walked over to some shelving and undressed. She grabbed a white bathing towel and wrapped it around her body, then submerged herself into the steaming hot water. Hinata, when she was finally sitting in the spring, let out a sigh of relief. This feels nice, Hinata soaked in the springs, easing her muscles and washing the sweat away. Hinata had noticed how her body had changed through all this training. Her stomach was flat and lean, void of any baby fat. Her legs had toned up as well. Her hair had also gotten longer. It was no longer in the Heim-style cut she had sported for so long, it was now down to her shoulders. Hinata stayed in the springs for about an hour longer, washing her hair and body before getting out. She discarded the wet towel and put on a cotton yukata, leaving the hot springs. As she walked back to her room, she couldn't help but think about Naruto. I wonder how Naruto-kun is doing. I hope his training is going well. As the thought crossed Hinata's mind, Naruto was currently at his favorite spot, Ichiraku's. Naruto had been training non-stop since Hinata had been confined to her home. Naruto had asked his academy sensei, Iruka, to help him with some extra training. Iruka told Naruto he would love to help, but was unable to. It would seem unfair for Iruka to train him while he didn't help any of his other students unless it was during classes or school. Naruto understood, continuing his training on his own. Naruto had just finished his 4th bowl of ramen, and patted his stomach. Ah! Delicious as always, old man. Thanks Naruto, Chuji chuckled. So, Naruto. How's Hinata doing? Have you seen her lately? I think she's doing okay. I mean, I sneak over to the Hyuga compound once in a while to see how she's doing. The last time I was over there was a week ago. She seemed to be doing well and training hard. The blonde had a bright smile. He was upset he couldn't see his friend every day, but he was happy she was training hard. He noticed I am taking away his empty bowl and replacing it with a full one. Thanks, I-am-chan. Naruto quickly began to slurp down the scrumptious noodles. Oh Naruto. I almost forgot to ask. Doesn't the academy start in a few days? Chuji asked as he scrubbed a dirty pot. Yup. In 3 days. Naruto continued to devour his ramen. I'm so excited. In a couple of days, I'll get to see Hinata every day. I-am gave Naruto a sly grin. Oh. It seems to me you like this girl. Of course I like her. She's my friend, Naruto stated bluntly. It was apparent to Chuji and I-am that Naruto was oblivious to what I-am meant. Anyways, I'm really excited about the academy. Even though Iruka-sensei can't physically train me, he's given me some pointers. My ninjutsu and taijutsu have gotten really good. My genjutsu's still bad, but Iruka-sensei says that my chakra coils are too large for genjutsu. That's wonderful, Naruto, Chuji said, smiling sincerely. He was very happy for Naruto. He always thought of Naruto as a grandson of sorts. Yup. Oh. Wanna know the funniest thing about my training with Iruka-sensei? He saw I-am and Chuji nod. This purple-haired psycho kept tackling him to the ground, then running off cackling like a maniac. It was really funny. Naruto exclaimed. I-am and Chuji laughed. It was rather amusing. The shop owners and the blonde chatted happily until Naruto left the restaurant. He walked through the village, a smile gracing his lips. As we wandered through the village, not really having anywhere to be, he noticed something familiar. The Hyuga eyes. However, it wasn't Hinata's eyes. Naruto jogged over to the owner of the eyes. Hey! You're a Hyuga, right? Naruto asked. The Hyuga turned, and a small smirk graced his lips. So. You must be Naruto. Yeah. How'd you know? Naruto asked. Then it hit him. Hey wait. You're the Hyuga that graduated this year. I can't remember your name, Naruto said, scratching his head. "It's Neji," he stated bluntly. Neji was taken aback. He had spoken up on more than one occasion when Iruka had asked a question. His name was also voiced many times in class. How could this blonde not know his name? "What is it that you want, Naruto?" "Oh yeah. You know Hinata, right? She is a Hyuga, so it's quite obvious that I know her," Neji bluntly stated. "She also happens to be my cousin." "Awesome. Can you tell her I said hello?" Naruto asked with a hopeful look in his eyes. Neji looked at Naruto for a moment and nodded. "I will. Now if you'll, Neji. Hurry. Guy-sensei says he has another mission for us." Neji and Naruto turned and saw a girl with brown hair pulled up into two buns on her head. She was wearing a blue sleeveless blouse with dark green pants with her hitai tied around her forehead. She ran up to Neji and Naruto and had a soft smile gracing her lips. "Come on, Neji. We better hurry before Guy-sensei gets impatient. Knowing sensei, he'll probably do the mission himself before we get there," he sighed. "Let's go. I bid you farewell, Naruto." "Naruto?" Tenten blinked. "Yup. That's me." Naruto puffed out his chest proudly. "Not to sound rude, but you failed the genin test, right?" Tenten asked. She didn't want to be mean to the boy. "Yeah," he said a little dejectedly. "I wasn't working hard last year and I just did what I had to, so I failed the test. But this year I'm working super hard. I will pass the test this time," he said confidently. Tenten smiled, while Neji smirked. "That's a good answer, Naruto. I wish you the best of luck." Tenten and Neji bade farewell to Naruto before returning to their sensei. Naruto smiled. That girl was nice. So was the Hyuga. Naruto now had a happy skip to his step. Today was the day. The day the academy started. Iruka was standing at the front of the class watching as this year's students began to pour in. This year's students are going to be the best Konoha's ever seen. I can feel it. Iruka noticed Naruto walking in with Hinata Hyuga. I guess Naruto wasn't kidding. He is friends with the Hyuga heiress. Naruto led Hinata to a few seats in the middle row before sitting down. I still couldn't believe that this psycho lady kept tackling Iruka-sensei. I swear, Hinata, she just kept popping up. Hinata giggled. Anyways, did your training pay off? Hinata nodded. My cousin helped me train. He taught me a lot. That's Neji, right? Hinata nodded. Of course, Naruto-kun, I can't forget about your help. Because of you, I wanted to train hard and get stronger. Thank you. Hinata gave him a soft, gentle smile. Naruto felt his cheeks burn and he gently scratched his nose. You're welcome. His attention turned from Hinata to Iruka when he heard the older man clear his throat. Welcome back, students. I hope your break was pleasant, Iruka said with a smile. After some chatter from the students, the Chunin addressed them again. This year, I'll be teaching you how to hone your skills to become a genin. We'll be working on your taijutsu, your stamina, stealth, throwing skills, some ninjutsu, and genjutsu, he explained. Today, we're going to do something different. I'm going to take you to the practice field to test your general skill level, while Mizuki-sensei will be speaking to you individually about what you can improve on. As he explained, a man of average height with white hair entered the room. Ah, Mizuki, perfect timing. We were just about to head to the practice field. I guess it is perfect timing. Come on, kids. Let's head out, he said with a smirk. Mizuki led the group of students to the practice field with Iruka tailing them. When they reached the practice field, Iruka broke the large group up. Alright. I want this half to work with Mizuki-sensei, and this half to work with me, he ordered. Mizuki looked at the group and realized he had all of the clan children, Uchiha Sasuke, Aburame Shino, Yamanaka Ino, Akimichi Chuji, Inuzuka Kiba, Nara Shikamaru, and Hyuga Hinata. He also had Haruno Sakura and Uzumaki Naruto in his group. Mizuki had a smirk grace his lips. "All right kids. We're going to start with sparring. I'm going to pair you up and I want to see if you've improved over the break. Yamanaka, Inuzuka. You're up first." "All right. Let's go," Akamaru, the Inuzuka boy cheered. Kiba was about 5 feet tall, tan, black eyes with slit pupils, messy brown hair, and had fairly prominent canine teeth. He wore a gray jacket with fur around the hood, dark gray pants that stopped mid-calf, and blue sandals. Akamaru, his white puppy, barked happily as the two of them stepped forward. Ino was a thin girl with long blonde hair. She wore revealing purple clothing, showing off her slender body. A purple vest shirt with a raised collar with a purple skirt that had slits on the sides, bandages on her stomach and legs, and purple elbow warmers. Ino stared at Mizuki, then to Kiba. "I have to fight dog breath?" "Ugh, why?" she groaned. "Because I said so," Mizuki stated, a little annoyed by her question. "But he smells like a wet dog," she whined. Some of the students snickered. "I can't let this smelly mutt come near me." Kiba glared. "Take it back." Akamaru growled at the female blonde. Mizuki sighed. "It's just a simple sparring match. Please just fight," he said, massaging his temples. "No," Ino said, crossing her arms over her chest. Kiba was about to attack the girl, but Mizuki intervened. "Fine. Whatever. I know what you need to work on," he said, glaring at Ino. Ino gasped. "Well," she huffed, before returning to the group. "All right Shikamaru, and where's Shikamaru?" he yelled. The group pointed to a shady spot several feet away. "He was asleep under said shady spot." "Are you frickin' kidding me?" "Ugh, all right. Shino, Chuji. You're next." Mizuki was massaging his temples again. This group was going to be the death of him, and it was only the first day. Shino was the first to step forward. Shino had dark bushy brown hair, pale skin, and was the tallest ninja in the class. He wore a sea green jacket with a high collar, and dark sunglasses. His opponent, Chuji, was snacking on a bag of barbecue potato chips. Chuji had brown spiky hair and swirl marks on his cheeks and was a little rotund. He put his bag of chips in his pocket and wiped the crumbs off his mouth. "I'm ready," he said, clenching his fist, squatting down a little. Shino assumed his position as well. "Remember, sparring only. No clan abilities." Which meant Chuji couldn't use any expansion ninjutsu to help him win the fight. It also meant Hinata couldn't use any chakra to shut off chakra points when it was her turn. "Begin." Chuji was the first to charge. He threw a sloppy punch at Shino, who easily dodged it. Shino then countered with a kick of his own to Chuji's stomach. The large boy stumbled back a little bit and rubbed his stomach. "Ow," he groaned. Chuji then threw another punch, but he was once again kicked by Shino. Chuji groaned again and raised his hands up. "I give." Mizuki sighed. "All right. Shino, you're the victor. You and Chuji get back in line." Shino helped Chuji up, who smiled at the quiet boy. "Thank you," he said, and the two walked back to the group. "All right. Hyuga and Haruno. You're up," Mizuki said, leaning against a tree. Sakura looked at Hinata and smirked. "Hinata's so quiet and weak. This should be easy." Sakura had long pink hair, emerald green eyes, and was just under 5 feet tall. She was wearing a pink cheapao * dress with white circular designs, dark green spandex shorts, blue ninja sandals, and a red ribbon in her hair. She walked to the sparring field and looked at Hinata. "I won't be going easy on you, Hinata," she said, clenching her fists and putting them in front of her. "Don't underestimate me, Sakura-san," Hinata said, taking her juken stance. Sakura scoffed and turned towards her longtime crush. "Oh, Sasuke-kun. Watch me, okay? I'm going to fight now." She noticed Sasuke was ignoring her, and it annoyed her. "Oh, Sasuke-kun. Ow." Sakura yelped as she fell to her butt. "Hinata. What the heck?" Hinata smirked at Sakura. She had done a low spin kick and kicked Sakura off her feet. "Don't take your eyes off your opponent. It could prove fatal, Sakura-san." Most of the kids snickered at Sakura's failure. Sakura's face went red with anger and embarrassment. She stood up and charged at Hinata with rage. Hinata sidestepped and threw a palm strike to the right side of Sakura's ribcage. Sakura yelped and held her ribs. "How'd you do that?" Sakura asked, dumbfounded. "Hinata was never this strong before. While you were fawning over Uchiha-san, I was training hard to become stronger." She gave Naruto a quick glance out of the corner of her eyes before returning her sight to Sakura. "I told you not to underestimate me. Now you will lose." "Yeah. You tell her, Hinata." Naruto cheered. Hinata's cheeks turned slightly pink, but she didn't take her eyes off Sakura. "I won't lose, Hinata," Sakura cried. She ran towards Hinata and threw a punch at the girl's face. Hinata countered with a palm strike and struck Sakura in the chest with another palm strike. Sakura skidded back several feet and placed her hand on her chest. "Geez, Hinata. Do you have to hit me so hard?" Sakura complained. "Do you think if you're fighting an enemy ninja, they'll go easy on you?" "Guess again," Hinata said before charging at Sakura. Hinata threw a double palm strike at Sakura, who managed to barely dodge it. Sakura threw a kick towards Hinata's chest. Hinata bent backwards and landed into a bridge position. She then preformed a back walkover, kicking Sakura in the process. Sakura gasped and stumbled backwards, landing on her butt again, holding the left side of her chin. Sakura was in complete shock. How did Hinata get so strong? Mizuki watched the spar and was shocked as well as the rest of the group, aside from Naruto. "Alright. The match is over. Hinata, you're the winner." Hinata bowed to Mizuki and thanked him, then turned to Sakura. She held out her hand to help Sakura up. Sakura looked at Hinata's hand and slapped it away. "I don't need your help, Hinata. I can get up on my own," she snapped. Sakura indeed got up on her own, then walked over to Sasuke to ask him how she did. Hinata sighed and returned to the group. She was welcomed back with a hug from Naruto. "And Naruto-kun?" That was the first time Hinata had stuttered in over a month. "You did so well, Hinata. I couldn't believe how strong you were. You were amazing." Naruto screamed. He let go of Hinata and smiled. "I knew you could get strong." Hinata blushed and smiled shyly. "Thank you, Naruto-kun. Good luck in your spar, thanks Hinata." Naruto stepped forward, not needing to be called. He and Sasuke were the last ones left. "Ready, Sasuke team? You won't win dobe. I will always be the best, and you will always be the worst," he bluntly stated. "You may be the best now, team. But that doesn't mean you'll always be the best," Naruto smirked. "I've been training all break, and I won't be losing today. We'll see." Dobe, Mizuki, who had been listening to the teens' conversation, was slightly shocked to hear that Naruto trained over break. Mizuki was going to pay extra attention to Naruto in this match. "All right, begin." Naruto was the first to attack. He jumped in the air, spun and threw a kick at Sasuke. Sasuke dodged and punched at Naruto when he landed. The punch connected, but Naruto performed another spin kick, his foot connecting with Sasuke's face. Sasuke flew to the ground, and stared at it in shock. He then turned to Naruto, the look of shock still present. "You kicked me, Budo. Why else would you be on the ground? And you call me the dobe, Naruto joked. Chuji and Kiba snickered, Kiba muttering about the burn. Sasuke growled as he stood up, shut up. I will beat you, dobe. Sasuke charged and punched at Naruto. Naruto dodged, but was caught by surprise when Sasuke pulled an uppercut, striking Naruto in the chin. Naruto flew back several feet and landed on the ground with a thud. Naruto groaned and sat up. Ow, he said, rubbing his now sore chin. Naruto stood up and took his stance again. You won't get that lucky again, team, he said before charging again. Naruto and Sasuke traded blows, the two seeming even in power. Everyone watched in awe. They couldn't believe Sasuke was having trouble fighting Naruto. They also couldn't believe how strong Naruto had become over the break. Sasuke had managed to punch Naruto in the stomach, causing him to skid on the ground. Naruto groaned in pain and fell to one knee. Cheap shot, Naruto groaned again. Sasuke smirked. You're just weak. Team. Naruto yelled. Alright. Alright. Enough. Sasuke, you're the winner, Mizuki intervened. We're not finished. Naruto said standing up. I can still fight. That may be, but I've seen enough, he stated. Alright. Since we're nearing the afternoon, go ahead and get lunch, and I'll talk to you individually. The kids bowed to Mizuki before turning to go back into the academy. Naruto. Come here. I'd like to talk to you first. Naruto stopped and looked at Mizuki. Okay. He then turned to Hinata and smiled. I'll catch up with you in a little while, okay? Okay. See you in a little while, Naruto-kun, she said with a smile. Now she could surprise him with a bento she made for him. Naruto walked up to Mizuki and crossed his arms. What do I need to work on, Mizuki-sensei? I will say, Naruto, I'm surprised by how much stronger you are. But it's still not enough. There was no way you would have beaten Sasuke in that sparring match, Mizuki explained. Yes, I would, if you actually let us continue the fight. Naruto argued. Don't talk back to your sensei, Naruto, Mizuki scolded. Naruto crossed his arms and pouted, and let Mizuki continue. You're hot-headed and rush into an attack without analyzing the situation or making a plan. That could get you killed in a fight. I will, however, let you in on something to get some extra credit to help you graduate. Naruto looked at Mizuki with slightly large eyes. Will it actually get me to graduate? Naruto asked. If you do exactly as I say, I'll make sure you graduate. Mizuki smirked. This boy is playing right into my hands. Mizuki then cleared his throat and continued. There's this large scroll hidden in the Hokage's office that I hid, Mizuki lied. I want you to find it when the Hokage leaves for the night. Once you find it, I want you to write down one jutsu per night and bring it to me the next day, Mizuki explained. And this will help me graduate? Naruto asked, still eyes wide. Mizuki nodded. Okay, Mizuki-sensei. You can count on me. One more thing, Naruto. You can't tell anyone. If anyone else found out, they would want to get extra credit too. This one is specifically for you, okay? Mizuki explained. Okay. Thank you, Mizuki-sensei. Naruto shouted, before running back towards the academy. Mizuki chuckled, before a wicked grin appeared. Such a moron. Soon, the Forbidden Scroll's secrets shall be mine. Orochimaru-sama will be most pleased. Mizuki chuckled again and returned to the academy as well. As Naruto neared the building, he noticed Hinata walking towards him. He smiled and rushed towards her, a bright smile gracing his face. He noticed Hinata holding 2 bento boxes. Hinata, did you make lunch? Hinata nodded, her cheeks slightly pink. I made bento boxes for us, she answered, her eyes directed at the boxes. She gasped when she felt Naruto hug her. Naruto-kun? You're the best, Hinata. Come on. I can't wait to eat what you've made, he said, walking to a lunch table with Hinata. Naruto sat down at the table, Hinata sitting across from him. She handed him a bento box, which he quickly opened to see what delicious devourables were inside. As he removed the lid, his eyes widened and a small sliver of drool was beginning to creep out of the corner of his mouth. Hariko Hinata. This looks awesome. Naruto yelled. Hinata blushed slightly. Thank you, Naruto-kun. I know you liked my cooking last time, so I thought I would make something for our first day back at the academy, Hinata smiled. It looks so good. What did you make? There's steamed rice, tsunamono again, mori soba, and sweet and salty tamagoyaki, she answered. I hope you enjoy it. Oh, I will. Naruto gave thanks for his food, thanked Hinata, and dug into the food. He started eating the mori soba. It tasted almost like cold ramen. Wow, Hinata. This is amazing. I wish I could cook like you, he said, shoveling more noodles into his mouth. It isn't that difficult. Perhaps I could teach you sometime, she offered. Naruto thought for a moment. Hinata teaching me how to cook would mean I would have to go to her house. Booty don't think it would be a good idea. She could come to my apartment, but she's used to very nice and expensive things. She'd be embarrassed to come to my apartment, Naruto-kun? Oh, sorry, Hinata. Don't worry about teaching me. I'm not very competent in the kitchen, Naruto chuckled nervously. Naruto then continued to chow down on the lunch Hinata made. Who taught you how to cook? Naruto asked innocently. My Okachan taught me before she passed away, Hinata said quietly. She indeed missed her mom, but crying and staying sad wasn't going to bring her back. I'm sorry, Hinata, Naruto said, genuinely sad for Hinata. Not having parents made him sensitive to people who had lost parents as well. But your Oka-san is probably watching you from heaven and proud of you. Hinata's eyes widened. No one had ever said anything like that about her mother. Her father would normally tell her her mother would be upset and discouraged by her weakness. The branch members would usually say she looked and acted like her mother, but that was the extent of it. Hinata had a few tears trickle down her cheek. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make you cry. Naruto panicked. I'm not upset with you, Naruto-kun. I'm happy. Hinata was beaming. Thank you for telling me that, Ohayuri welcome. Naruto smiled back. Naruto and Hinata chit-chatted about their break and the training they'd each done until Mizuki called Hinata over. I'll be back soon, Naruto-kun. She gave him a wave and walked over towards Mizuki. Naruto then focused back on his lunch. He began to eat the tamagoyaki. This is so good. I'm going to have to see if Hinata can make me lunch every day. Hey! Dobe! Naruto turned around and groaned. Sasuke was walking towards him. What are you eating? He smirked. What do you want, team? Naruto said before putting another slice of tamagoyaki in his mouth. Who would want to make you lunch? He said, grabbing a slice and popped it in his mouth. Naruto was about to retort, but he saw Sasuke's face grim slightly before the Uchiha spat out the food. Ugh! That's sweet. Naruto snickered. There's sweet and salty tamagoyaki. Looks like you got the sweet kind, Naruto laughed. A lot of people knew that Sasuke hated sweets, but that didn't stop his fangirls from trying to give him chocolate or candy. Sasuke was spitting and gagging as Hinata came running back to the picnic table. Naruto-kun, guess what, Sasuke-san, are you okay? That crap you made nearly made me sick, he said, spitting the last bit of the sweetness out of his mouth. Hinata was confused slightly, until Naruto explained that Sasuke stole a piece of his sweet tamagoyaki. Hinata then became irritated. No offense, Sasuke-san, but the lunch I made was not intended for you. I made a lunch for Naruto-kun and myself. You had no right to just take a piece of Naruto-kun's lunch, Hinata stated firmly. Sasuke was shocked. Hinata had never been this firm and confident before. Sasuke could hear Naruto trying to hide his laughter, though he was failing miserably. Sasuke scoffed and turned to leave. Whatever. Hinata and Naruto watched him leave, before Naruto burst into hysterical laughter. Oh wow, Hinata. The look on Sasuke team's face. Naruto laughed. When Naruto finally regained his composure, he gave Hinata a beaming smile. That was amazing. You're definitely an awesome person, Hinata-chan. Hinata's eyes widened and her cheeks flushed. He called me Hinata-chan, he called me Hinata-chan. Hinata inwardly celebrated. Thank you Naruto-kun. Sure. Oh, what did Mizuki-sensei say? Did he say you were awesome? He shouted. He said that I have improved, and that it was a pleasant surprise. He said he looks forward to future progress, Hinata nodded. Wow. That's a better critique than I got, Naruto stated before shoveling more soba in his mouth. What did Mizuki-sensei say to you? Well, said that I'm hot-headed, and that's bad. I rush into a fight without making a plan of action, he said, somewhat embarrassed. I guess I need to learn some patience. He and Hinata laughed and finished their lunch. Mizuki blew a whistle, which meant lunch was over and everyone had to return to their designated sensei and practice field. When the children gathered around, Mizuki had them do some kunai and shuriken throwing and run the obstacle course. During throwing practice Naruto had noticed Sakura wasn't near Sasuke, so he took the opportunity to talk to her. Nay, Sakura-chan? Naruto said walking up to the pinkette. What are you doing after class today? He asked innocently. Humph. It's none of your concern Naruto. I'm not going on a date with you to that stinky ramen shop. Sakura bluntly stated. Hinata had noticed Naruto fawning over Sakura. She couldn't help but feel jealous. She was happy she and Naruto were friends, but she wanted more. She wanted to walk away, but she couldn't help but eavesdrop. And she wasn't the only one. The whole group, including Mizuki, was listening in on the conversation. Naruto's eyes widened. But Sakura-chan, it's so delicious. And I'll even pay for everything. Come on Sakura-chan. Just one date, he pleaded. Naruto yelped and fell down, a sharp sting on his cheeks. He looked up and realized Sakura had slapped him. Sakura-chan, listen to me, Naruto. I love Sasuke-kun. You need to get that through your fat head and leave me alone. We'll never have a date, and we'll never be friends. So leave me alone. She yelled. Sakura didn't see the look of hurt on Naruto's face, and turned around with a scoff. You'll never be as cool as Sasuke-kun. You'll never be as good as Sasuke-kun. So just leave me alone, she yelled before walking away to go back to Sasuke. Naruto stared as Sakura started walking away. Naruto felt tears threaten to fall. He wanted to cry, but he couldn't do it here. Not with everyone watching. He gasped when he felt a hand on his shoulder. He looked up and saw Hinata smiling down at him. Naruto wiped the tears away and smiled up at her. Funny huh? I trained to be strong but I'm being weak, Naruto tried to laugh, but it came out as a sob. Hinata sighed and gently hugged Naruto. Naruto gasped again. Sakura doesn't know the real you Naruto. Anyone would be lucky to be with you, she stated. Will I be lucky? Why can't you see that I love you Naruto-kun? Naruto's eyes widened at hearing what Hinata had said. He slowly put his arms around her, and let out his breath, that he didn't realize he was holding. After a few moments he pulled away, and had a genuine smile on his face. Thank you Hinata-chan. I'm so glad to have a friend like you. Hinata smiled back. You're welcome, Naruto-kun. It was at that precise moment that Hinata noticed all eyes were on them. Hinata felt slightly uncomfortable. Awkward, Kiba voiced. Alright, enough. Hinata, Naruto whatever is going on right now, stop it and focus, Mizuki ordered. Yes sensei, they said together. Good, now let's continue, Mizuki said turning back to the target. The first day of the academy was over, and Naruto and Hinata walked out side by side. So what do you want to do, Hinata-chan? We could go get some ramen. Naruto suggested all too eagerly. Hinata giggled at Naruto's enthusiasm. She was about to reply when she spotted a branch member. Hinata sighed and turned to Naruto with a sad expression. It appears my father wants me to come home immediately after classes. I'm really sorry, Naruto-kun. Naruto noticed the branch member and stuck his tongue out at him. Come on, Hinata-chan. Naruto grabbed her wrist and took off running the opposite direction of the branch member. And Naruto-kun. Hinata gasped in surprise. Slow down. She looked behind her and saw the branch member chasing after them. Naruto-kun. He's following us. Naruto looked back as well and frowned. Run faster, Hinata-chan. Naruto continued to run, dragging Hinata with him. Naruto continued to drag Hinata until he spotted a bundle of bushes and leapt into them with Hinata. Naruto-kun, what are you MMPH? Hinata's eyes widened and her face turned slightly pink. Naruto had his hand over her mouth, and his face was close to hers. Shoo, Naruto and Hinata watched as the branch member ran by the bushes. They waited for several moments before coming out of the bushes. Sorry about that, Hinata-chan. I wanted to hang out for a little while. It's been a long time since we've gotten to hang out. Hinata's face became a little more pink. Naruto-kun, Hinata smiled. What do you want to do, Naruto-kun? Well, I was thinking. Naruto stopped when he sensed someone standing behind him. Naruto slowly turned around and saw the Hyuga standing over him with a glare. I am guessing you want Hinata-chan who? The branch member growled and pushed Naruto away from Hinata. Come, Hinata-sama. Your father wishes to see you immediately. Hinata gasped when the branch member grabbed her wrist and began to drag her away. Wait. Stop pulling. Hinata struggled. Please be silent, Hinata-sama, he growled. No. You didn't need to push Naruto-kun, she yelled, still struggling to get free. She saw Naruto rush past her and punch the older Hyuga. Naruto-kun. You let go of Hinata-chan, he yelled. The Hyuga held his stomach and growled. Step away from Hinata-sama, or I will force you, the Hyuga threatened. Naruto growled and went to attack, but Hinata stopped him. Naruto-kun. It's okay. I promise we can hang out tomorrow. I don't want to cause trouble for you or anyone else. But Hinata-chan. It's okay, Naruto-kun. I promise. She turned to the branch member. I promise, she said with a slight glare, which meant, you make up an excuse for me coming home late tomorrow. Okay. If you promise. Naruto smiled. Naruto trusted Hinata. Hinata smiled and turned back to the older Hyuga. All right, Junichi-san. Let's go. The Hyuga, now named Junichi, nodded at the young heiress. I'll see you tomorrow, Naruto-kun, she promised with a smile. Bye, Hinata-chan. Naruto waved with a smile, but his smile faded when Hinata and Junichi's figures faded. Naruto was sad that Hinata was escorted away, but he had hoped that she would hang out with him tomorrow. When Hinata and Junichi reached the Hyuga compound, Hinata stopped him. Junichi-san, I'm sure my father has asked you to escort me home every day after class, am I correct? Yes, Hinata-sama. Tomorrow I will be spending time with Naruto-kun after class. You may come as well if you wish to watch over me, but when you do escort me home after Naruto-kun and I hang out, will you tell Oda-sama that you escorted me through town so I may window shop? Hinata didn't like to lie, but she did want to hang out with Naruto, and if lying was how she was going to do it, then so be it. Hinata-sama, I do not wish to lie to Hiashi-sama, Junichi said, slightly afraid of the job Hinata had asked of him. Like I said, you may follow us, so technically I am with you. Technically you won't be lying, you just won't be telling the whole truth. Hinata smiled. Junichi stared at Hinata for a moment, then sighed. All right, Hinata-sama. Thank you Junichi-san. She bowed to the man before entering the premises. She didn't see her father in the main room, and he wasn't in his office. Hinata guessed he was in the courtyard training Hanabi, and she was correct. Hinata approached her sister and father and bowed. Ota-sama, I'm home. I can see that. Hinata, approach, he commanded. Hinata did as she was commanded, and approached her father and sister. You are to spar with Hanabi. Hinata's eyes widened slightly. She didn't like hurting her sister. She didn't even want to harm Neji in their training, but Neji told her that inflicting damage is inevitable. Hinata had to push aid her soft side if she was to become a strong kunoichi. She turned to her sister, who gave a slight nod. Hinata gave a slight nod back in understanding. Hanabi didn't want her sister to hold back. All right, Ota-sama. Hiashi was taken slightly by surprise. Hinata normally was very hesitant about sparring with her sister. Good. The elders shall be arriving shortly to view your spar, Hiashi stated before walking to the raised floor to sit. Hinata and Hanabi took their respective positions, and waited for the elders to arrive. Within minutes, the elders came and took their seats next to Hiashi. Hiashi then spoke. Begin. Hanabi and Hinata took their stances, and Hanabi charged at her sister. Hanabi threw a palm strike at her sister. Hinata blocked the palm strike by grabbing her sister's wrist and throwing a palm strike at Hanabi's shoulder. Hanabi flew backwards and landed on her back with a thud. Hiashi and the elders were taken by surprise when Hinata had landed a hit on Hanabi. Hanabi stood up and charged again. Hinata sidestepped past Hanabi and threw a double palm strike at her sister's back. Hanabi flew forward and skidded across the floor for several inches. Hinata-sama has really come along in her training, commented an elder. She will make a fine heiress in due time. Hiashi only grunted in response. Hanabi rushed forward again, Hinata rushing towards her sister as well. They traded blows for several moments, blocking and throwing strikes. Hinata found a small opening and struck Hanabi's ribs. Hanabi yelped and tumbled to the side. All right. That's enough, Hiashi interrupted. I've seen enough. Hanabi stood up and faced her father, Hinata doing the same. Hiashi looked at the two sisters and left them and the elders. Hinata and Hanabi were confused, but the elders were pleased. Hiashi-sama is pleased with your progress Hinata-sama, one elder said. How do you know? Hanabi questioned. Just trust me. Your father is most pleased, the elder said, leading the others away. Hinata and Hanabi looked at each other and smiled. Arg. Stupid Mizuki-sensei. He just had to hide that damn scroll in a place I can't find. Naruto complained. Naruto had been complaining to himself for an hour. He had practically destroyed the Hokage's office. Naruto shoved the Hokage's desk out of frustration. He saw a small slip of paper fall from underneath the desk. Huh. Naruto knelt down and picked up the paper. He studied the paper for a moment, realizing the paper was a seal. Naruto had a wicked grin creep up on his face. Oh. Why do you have a seal under your desk, old man? Naruto asked himself. Naruto had to think back to how to release seals. It took him a few moments to recall the lessons. Blood or a hand seal? Naruto decided to do the hand seal first, but it failed. Okay, so blood then. Naruto bit his thumb and dragged his bloody thumb across the seal. There was a sudden puff of smoke. A large green scroll had replaced the small paper seal. Naruto's wicked grin grew. I found it, he said in a sing-song voice. Naruto opened the scroll and his eyes widened. Wow! There are a lot of jutsus in here. Naruto grabbed a piece of paper and a pencil off the Hokage's desk. The first jutsu he saw was the shadow clone jutsu. He began to copy down the forbidden technique. After a few moments the technique was copied and Naruto pocketed the piece of paper. Naruto attempted several times to return the scroll to a piece of paper, but it wasn't working. Ah man! And I have to clean up this damn mess. Naruto grumbled, then got to work cleaning up the Hokage's destroyed office. After about 2 hours, Naruto had finally managed to clean up the office. All done. Naruto then looked at the large green scroll. Now what am I going to do with you? Naruto asked himself. Naruto just decided he was going to hide the large scroll under the Hokage's desk. He won't notice. Naruto jumped out of the Hokage's window and shut it behind him. Naruto leapt onto the ground, and pulled out the piece of paper. Shadow clone jutsu, huh? I think Mizuki-sensei could wait a couple days for this. Naruto smirked and repocketed the piece of paper. A black shadow ran from roof to roof, as silently as possible, towards the Hokage tower. This time I want to get a powerful jutsu. Naruto thought as he got closer to the tower. I hope the old man didn't re-hide the scroll. But I'm prepared this time. Naruto smirked. Naruto reached the tower and climbed into the Hokage's office through the large windows. Naruto instantly ducked under the desk to find the seal. Wait, it's not here. Naruto frowned. Maybe old man Hokage found out it was me. Naruto scooted out from underneath the desk and stood up. Well, looks like this is a perfect time to test it out. Naruto made the appropriate hand sign and smirked. Kagebushin no Jutsu. Within seconds 10 clones of Naruto were standing before the original. Alright troops. Naruto began. We're looking for a seal. It's on a yellow slip of paper. It was underneath the old man's desk last night, and it's not there now. No, let's get searching. Naruto yelled. The clones saluted to their creator and the 11 Narutos began their attack on the Hokage's office. Within a matter of minutes, the Hokage's office was completely destroyed. One clone had stopped his search and was playing around with the Hokage's hat. Hey guys! Check me out! I'm livin' the dream, he joked. The other clones turned to look at him and laughed. The original was a little miffed. Hey! Knock it off! We have to find the damn seal, he yelled, swiping the hat from the clone. Get back to, he stopped with a grin as he looked into the hat. Well, hello. Found it, he yelled, reaching into the hat and pulling the seal out. The clone frowned. I helped. Naruto rolled his eyes. Okay, guys, I'm gonna start writing the next jutsu down, you guys start cleaning up, Naruto said, unsealing the scroll from the seal. The clones quickly got to work, and Naruto opened up the scroll. Okay, let's see, Naruto said, reading the scroll. No, that one looks dumb, no, not strong enough. Katan, Hazakisho. This jutsu requires keen senses to read the air currents, the insight to read the movements of the enemy, the tactical experience to not also enfold one's allies in the flames, and careful attention for the timing of the ignition. The user spews a stream of chakra-infused gunpowder from their mouth, which surrounds the region. As the gunpowder is composed entirely of ash, it stays in the air around the victim like a cloud, which can be used like a smokescreen. After surrounding the enemy with the ash, the user can ignite it with a flint placed on their teeth beforehand to create a spark, resulting in a violent explosion, burning the enemy. Naruto read to himself. The blonde's lips curved into a smirk. This will be perfect. Naruto almost shouted. As Naruto wrote down the instructions and description of the jutsu, and the clones continued to clean, a pair of chocolate-brown eyes watched the blondes at work. It's just as Hokage-sama suspected. Why are you doing this, Naruto-kun? The eyes then slipped back into the shadows and vanished. Naruto rolled the scroll back up and smiled. Awesome job, guys. The Hokage's office was almost clean. Naruto pocketed the new jutsu and looked back at the scroll. Well, at least I read up on resealing you, he said to the scroll. He bit his thumb and dragged his blood over the scroll again, causing it to disappear back into the seal. Hey boss man, one clone called. Check this out. Naruto turned to the clone and saw him holding a black journal. What is it? Naruto said, taking the book out of the clone's hands. I dunno, the clone said before going back to work. Naruto examined the outside of the book and found it didn't say anything. Naruto opened it up and was immensely surprised. The first page was written by the first Hokage. Naruto, being instantly intrigued, began reading. Today marks the day of a new beginning. Today marks the building of Konohagakure no Sato. I have been appointed by the people, the Senju clan, my clan, and the Uchiha clan to be the leader of this village. A title has not been issued for the leader, however it is of little importance at the moment. Uchiha Madara's attitude toward our alliance and the infrastructure of the new village has been particularly problematic. He believes he should become the leader, however, I worry about him. His intentions are unclear at the moment, but I am very suspicious of him. I have a feeling that Uchiha Madara is already plotting much against the newly created Konohagakure no Sato. Wow, Naruto was flabbergasted. It's the first Hokage's journal. Awesome. Naruto looked up and saw all of the office clean and his clones waiting for any other command. Awesome job, guys. You're done. The clones nodded and dispersed. Naruto then got up and sat in the Hokage's chair. Boy, I can't wait to sit in this chair as Hokage, he said to himself, smiling. Naruto then opened the book and skimmed over more of the journal and realized it wasn't just the first Hokage's journal, it held lost information on Konoha from all the Hokages. No way. No frickin' way. Naruto yelled. This is all of Konoha's secrets. Oh, baby. I could totally use this. Naruto continued to skim until something caught his eye. Madara Uchiha? That was in the first Hokage's entries. The Shodai wrote that he died. Why is he in here again? Naruto checked who wrote the entry and his eyes widened slightly. The old man? What I have to write, I write in complete and abject sorrow. The Uchiha clan is near extinct, and I let it happen. Those first two sentences nearly stopped Naruto from reading. No way. Naruto couldn't even comprehend what he was going to say. Naruto continued to read. Uchiha Itachi, son of Uchiha Fugaku, who was head of the clan, was asked by the clan to become a spy for them and spy on Konoha while he was in Anbu. Itachi feared the Uchihas would betray Konoha and attack their home village, and so he decided to become a double agent. Sadly, the Uchihas didn't trust Itachi as I had hoped. They began to doubt him. Once again, unfortunately, Itachi had a falling out with his father and most of the clan. The day the council ordered him to kill his clan, he pleaded one thing. He wished to keep his brother alive. The council ordered him to kill everyone, but he disobeyed and kept his brother alive. He told his brother to hate him and become an avenger in the hopes that he would redeem the Uchiha name by killing him. Itachi went into hiding for several days after the massacre before coming to me with disturbing news. He suspects Tobi, his accomplice in the massacre, to be the presumed dead Uchiha Madara. As much as I wish to disagree with him, from what Itachi has said about Tobi, the similarities between Tobi and Madara are uncanny. I have come to truly believe Uchiha Madara is alive and most likely still planning to attack Konoha. The day he came out of hiding to speak to me, he begged me to do two things, look after Uchiha Sasuke and to never tell him the truth about the Uchiha massacre. To my surprise, and that of the rest of the council, he threatened them and Danzo not to touch his brother, or the whole Uchiha massacre would be revealed. Itachi also told me one more thing: he wanted to join Akatsuki. I begged him not to join, but he said he must join until Sasuke seeks him out and kills him. I begged again, but he refused. Finally, I asked him if he would do me one favor. I asked him to, once again, become a double agent. I knew Akatsuki was dangerous, and with the Jinchuriki out there, including Naruto, it would be beneficial for us, as well as himself, to be a double agent. I also told him that, if somehow Sasuke found out, he would be able to come back, and his crimes would be forgiven. For future Hokages, Uchiha Itachi is innocent. Uchiha Madara is alive. Naruto couldn't believe what he read. Not only was the whole Uchiha massacre Konoha's council's idea, but he was a Jinchuriki, whatever that was. Naruto wanted to read more, but he wasn't sure if his brain could take all that information. He kinda wanted to read the fourth Hokage's secrets but decided that was better left for another day if he could find the book again. Naruto checked his pockets to make sure he had the new jutsu, then quickly left. As he returned to his apartment, the new knowledge of what he read couldn't leave his mind. He knew he couldn't tell anyone. It was one of Konoha's greatest secrets. So that's what he was gonna do. Keep it a secret. The next day, Naruto arrived at the academy a little early. He saw that his spot next to Hinata was taken thanks to Kiba. He then saw Sasuke in his little secluded corner, and decided to sit next to him. "Hey Sasuke," he said, sitting next to him. Sasuke was taken by surprise. He had made it very clear that no one was to sit next to him. So why was this dope going against his rule? "Hn. Why are you sitting next to me, dope?" Before Naruto could answer, Sasuke's fangirls instantly jumped on Naruto. "What are you doing, Naruto?" Sasuke said no one could sit next to him. "Not even us." Sakura yelled. "Yeah. That's right. What makes you so special?" Ino screamed. Hinata was tuning out Kiba, who was trying to impress her with random stories about his jutsu he could do with Akamaru. She heard many of the girls shouting at Naruto, who was sitting next to Sasuke. Hinata was a little confused as to why Naruto was sitting with Sasuke. There were other open seats that weren't near the Uchiha. Naruto looked at the fangirls and shrugged. "Nothing makes me special." "Exactly." Sakura yelled. "So move. Leave Sasuke alone. He's too cool to be hanging out with a loser like you." Naruto winced slightly. Not because of the insult, but because Sakura was as loud as a banshee. "That must be why you guys can't sit with him either," he said, pointing to the fangirls. Shock flashed over the girls' faces. The class erupted into laughter. Even Sasuke couldn't help but smirk. Sakura's face went red with anger. She pulled her fist back and punched Naruto in the face. The classroom went silent. Naruto, who had fallen off his seat from the punch, looked up at Sakura. "What the hell, Sakura?" he yelled. "How dare you?" Sakura screeched. "How dare you call me a loser? You're the biggest loser around. No one likes you. No one wants you around. You've failed the Genin test twice. You'll never make it as a ninja, Naruto. So just give up." Everyone was a little shocked to hear Sakura say those things to Naruto. Everyone knew Naruto wasn't Sakura's favorite person, but they never thought she could get that nasty. Fueled by rage, Hinata approached Sakura. She spun Sakura around and slapped her. Sakura, along with everyone in the room, was taken by surprise. "No, Sakura. How dare you?" She frowned. Sakura put her hand on her sore cheek. "What the heck, Hinata? Why did you slap me?" Sakura exclaimed. "You punched Naruto. I think he should have slapped you, but Naruto is too kind to lay a hand on someone he cares about, she stated bluntly. Sakura growled and took a fighting stance. Naruto stood up and spoke. I wouldn't do that, Sakura. Hinata totally kicked your butt last time, he chuckled. Oh yeah? And who's gonna stop me from kicking Hinata's butt this time? Sakura said confidently. As if on cue, Iruka came in to start the class. He saw Sakura ready to fight, Hinata looking rather angry, and Naruto on the floor. What is going on here? Iruka asked, crossing his arms over his chest. Iruka-sensei. Naruto was being mean to me. Sakura whined. What? You started it, Sakura. Naruto yelled. You got all pissy with me just for sitting next to Sasuke. Then you punched me because I said something you didn't want to hear. No. Don't be a liar, Naruto. Sakura yelled, trying to get Iruka to believe her, instead of Naruto. And, Iruka-sensei, Hinata slapped me, she yelled pointing at the female Hyuga. She slapped me for no reason. Hinata. Naruto. Is this true? Iruka asked. Not all of it. Naruto yelled. Care to tell us your side of the story? Iruka frowned. Gladly. Naruto said, glaring at Sakura. It is true that I said something that I guess could be considered mean, but Sakura punched me. I did not, Naruto. Stop lying. Sakura screeched. Then how did Naruto end up on the floor, Sakura? Everyone turned stunned eyes to the voice. You need to stop lying. Sasuke-kun? Sakura stuttered. Iruka looked at Sasuke, then cleared his throat. Sasuke, would you care to tell me what really happened? Sasuke sighed, then spoke. Everything Sakura says is a lie. Sakura punched the dobe because he called her a loser, after calling him one. Then she, he said, motioning towards Hinata, slapped Sakura because Sakura was being a bitch. The entire time the Uchiha was speaking, his tone never varied at all, he sounded rather bored the entire time. Everyone stared at Sasuke dumbfounded, Hinata and Naruto more so. Had offended us? Hinata thought. Sasuke-kun, Sakura started. Why? Why what? He asked, not even looking at her. Why would you say that about me? I love you, she pleaded. Sakura, please calm down and take your seat. You've done enough damage, Iruka stated. Sakura was about to retort, but Iruka shot her a look that quickly got her moving to her seat. Naruto inwardly snickered at Sakura before returning to his seat next to Sasuke. Hinata smiled at Naruto. You're being so mature, Naruto-kun, Hinata thought, smiling again, before taking her seat next to Naruto. You don't mind if I sit here, too, do you, Sasuke-san? HN. Do what you want, he said before turning his attention to Iruka. Iruka saw Naruto and Hinata sit next to Sasuke and smiled. Well done, you two. After class, Naruto sought out Mizuki to give him the shadow clone jutsu. After walking around the academy for a little while, he managed to find Mizuki at one of the training obstacle courses. Mizuki-sensei. Naruto called. Mizuki, who was running the obstacle course, heard Naruto scream. His attention turned from the course to the blonde, who was running at him holding a piece of paper. He couldn't help but let a devious smirk grace his lips. It seems you found the scroll, he commented, trying to seem only minimally interested. Yeah. But I only got this one jutsu, the blonde said, handing over the piece of paper. It's the shadow clone jutsu. Naruto smiled. Mizuki smirked at Naruto again. Well done. Have you gone back to the Hokage's office to collect more ninjutsu? I went back last night, and I think the Hokage found it. It wasn't where you hid it, he explained. Mizuki frowned. Damn it. Damn that old fool. Mizuki sighed, then placed a hand on Naruto's head. You did well, Naruto. I'll make sure Iruka knows about this and gives you extra credit. Okay? Naruto smiled. Awesome. Thanks Mizuki-sensei, he yelled, running off and waving to Mizuki. Mizuki gave a small wave to Naruto. When he was out of sight, Mizuki frowned. Damn it all. The brat only manages to bring me one jutsu, of course, it just had to be one that will take forever for me to learn. Mizuki growled and crumpled up the piece of paper. And now the Hokage went and re-hid the scroll. Looks like my plans are put on hold for the time being. As Naruto exited the academy, he saw Hinata waiting for him. Hey, Hinata-chan. Were you waiting for me? He asked. Hinata nodded. Junichi-san had errands he had to run, so he said that we can spend some time hanging out, if you want to. Hinata blushed slightly. Heck yes, I want to hang out. How about we get some ramen? Naruto smiled. He hadn't eaten his favorite food with his best friend in a long time. Hinata giggled and nodded. Alright, Naruto-kun. Lead the way. Naruto cheered as he led Hinata to Ichiraku's. Next time, we'll get your favorite, K? Hinata blushed. He's so considerate, Hinata beamed at Naruto. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled back, and the two continued their walk to Ichiraku's. Naruto and Hinata approached the small stand and sat down. Hey, old man. Naruto called. Chuji came out of the kitchen when he heard Naruto's voice. Ah, Naruto. Good to see you again. Oh, and you brought Hinata-san again. It's good to see you as well, the aging chef said with a smile. Thank you. Hinata smiled. It's nice to eat here again. Chuji smiled at the couple. Alright, you too. What would you like to eat? I'll have some beef ramen, please. Hinata smiled. Naruto smiled. I'll have the same. Chuji smiled, nodded, and went into the back to make their ramen. Ayam came out when her father told her that Naruto and Hinata were there. Naruto-kun. Hinata-san. It's good to see you too. Have you been training hard? Hinata nodded. Yes. My cousin helps me train, she said, smiling. Naruto nodded. Yup. I've already learned a new jutsu and I'm trying to learn another one. Hinata blinked. You've learned a new jutsu, Naruto-kun? What is it? Naruto realized what he said, but he played it off smoothly. Well, you know how I'm terrible at creating normal clones? Hinata and Ayam nodded. Well, there's this clone jutsu that's made for people like me who can't create normal clones because I have too much chakra. Ayam smiled. That's wonderful, Naruto-kun. Yup. And after me and Hinata-chan catch up, I'm gonna work on the other jutsu. He smiled. He saw Chuji coming out with their bowls of ramen, and he got excited. Alright. Ramen time. Hinata giggled at Naruto's enthusiasm. Hinata and Naruto thanked the owners and began to eat. So, Hinata-chan, Naruto started after swallowing some of his ramen noodles. Have you learned any new jutsu? He then put more noodles in his mouth. Hinata nodded. Yes, I have. Neji-san taught me a family jutsu that I couldn't even do before the break, Hinata said, slightly embarrassed. Ryoi? What doeth it do? Naruto said with his mouth full of ramen. Hinata blinked and giggled. I strike the opponent's chakra points, closing them off. I have to use my Byakugan to make sure I hit the chakra points correctly, Hinata explained. Awesome! Naruto shouted. Wow, I wish I could use some of those awesome jutsu you can use. Naruto said, lifting his broth-filled bowl and slurping the broth. Hinata blinked at Naruto, then looked at her bowl. It still had noodles in it, but she picked up her bowl and began to sip some of the broth out of the bowl. She put her bowl down after a few sips and turned to Naruto. What? Naruto was staring at her, trying not to laugh. Why you have a noodle on your lip? Naruto couldn't keep it in any longer and burst out laughing. Hinata picked the noodle off her upper lip and laughed with Naruto. The two laughed for several more moments, before smiling at each other and finishing their meal. The two chit-chat for a little while longer before Hinata heard her name being called. Hinata turned and saw Junichi approaching them. "I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but I must go." "Oh okay. Bye, Hinata-chan," he said with a wave. "I'll see you tomorrow, Naruto-kun." She smiled and walked to Junichi. Naruto waved goodbye, then turned to his ramen with a sigh. "You okay, Naruto-kun?" I asked. "Yeah. I just wanted to hang out with Hinata-chan a little more. I mean my friend me only friend," he said, his voice almost a whisper by the end. I sighed and looked at Naruto sadly. She felt bad for the young boy. He was such an energetic ball of sunshine with a heart of gold, but very few saw that. She only hoped that once he became a ninja the villagers would see him for who he was, and not as the demon he carried. "Don't worry Naruto-kun. Everything will be okay." "I know. Thanks, Nichan." He slurped down the rest of his ramen and placed the bowl down with a content sigh. "Alright. I'm gonna go Nichan. I'm gonna work on my new jutsu." He paid for his and Hinata's ramen and ran to the training grounds. When Naruto reached the training grounds, he pulled out the slip of paper that held the new jutsu he was going to learn. "Okay, burning ash." He read over the jutsu's description again, and then moved to the instructions on how to preform it. "Great hand seals," Naruto groaned. Naruto sucked at hand seals. "Okay, so snake rat snake tiger." Naruto read on. "Okay, so hand seals, then I blow a lot of chakra infused gunpowder out of my mouth." Naruto read on, the instructions saying that a flint should be placed in between his teeth to light up the gunpowder and make an explosion. Naruto decided against that, making sure he could actually produce the gunpowder first and not kill himself if something went wrong. Naruto took a deep breath and slowly let it out to calm his nerves. "Okay. I can do this." He took one more deep breath before he began his hand seals. Snake. Rat. Snake. Tiger. Katan, Hazakisho. Naruto took in a deep breath and breathed out a very small puff of gunpowder. It was no bigger than a baseball. Naruto frowned. Damn it, Naruto took another deep breath, then tried again. Snake. Rat. Snake. Tiger. Katan, Hazakisho. Naruto took another deep breath and blew out the gunpowder. Once again, no bigger than a baseball. Naruto growled and stomped his foot. Naruto continued to practice the jutsu. He performed it over and over again until night had fallen. Naruto was face first on the ground, trying to catch his breath. "Why is it so hard to do this jutsu?" Naruto rolled onto his back and stared at the dark, starry sky. He groaned as he slowly sat up, still trying to catch his breath. Naruto stood up on shaky legs and began to preform hand signs. Snake rat snake tiger. Keikatan, Hazakisho. Naruto took as deep a breath as he could and blew out the gunpowder. The dark cloud that came out of Naruto's mouth was bigger than all his other attempts. It was about the size of a beach ball. Naruto fell face first into the ground again, panting. "I get it be bigger." Naruto had a small smile on his face as he began to slip into unconsciousness. A tall, slender figure wearing an ANBU mask approached the young boy, and placed a hand on his blonde hair. "I have to tell Hokage-sama about him learning this new jutsu." The figure picked up Naruto and placed him on his back. "You better hope this doesn't hinder your chances of being a shinobi, Naruto-kun." The ANBU then began the short journey to Naruto's apartment. Once inside Naruto's apartment, he quickly made his way to the boy's bed and laid him down. He then removed his mask and revealed her face. Yugao Uzuki was standing next to Naruto's bed. Yugao covered Naruto up and left his apartment. She then quickly rushed to the Hokage's office to give him her report before he went home. Yugao entered the Hokage's office just as he was getting up to leave. "Hokage-sama, I have news to report," Yugao said, bowing to the village leader. "Ah, Yugao. I didn't think you'd make it. Was I right?" Hiruzen prayed that he wasn't. "I'm afraid you are right, Hokage-sama. He was the one who found it. He's taken 2 of the scroll's secret ninjutsu," she said with a bowed head. Yugao didn't hate Naruto. In fact, she actually quite enjoyed his pranks. Mostly because she had never been pranked by Naruto, and it kept her team on their toes from time to time. She was also one of the few people who saw Naruto for who he was, not the Kyuubi. Only 2? This confused the Hokage. Why would Naruto only take 2? Hiruzen sighed. "Do you know which ones he took?" Yugao nodded. "Yes. He took and learned the shadow clone jutsu. He also wrote down fire style, burning ash." Hiruzen sighed. "Thank you, Yugao. You are dismissed." Yugao nodded and shoo-shined away. Hiruzen sighed and approached the window that looked out to Konoha. "What are you trying to do, Naruto?" It was about halfway through the year, and Naruto had come along quite a lot. His skills had improved quite a lot, thanks in large part to Hinata's help. Naruto had returned to the Hokage's office multiple times to find Mizuki's hidden scroll, but had no luck, since the Hokage had hidden it again. So Mizuki told Naruto that the one jutsu he turned in would give him extra credit. Naruto had also been practicing his new jutsu over the past few weeks, trying to get his gunpowder cloud as big as he could. Naruto had managed to make the cloud about the size of his bedroom in his apartment. He still hadn't put flame to the gunpowder, still fearing it would go horribly wrong. Naruto hadn't shown his new jutsu to Hinata yet, but he was planning on showing her, and the rest of the class, on graduation day. Currently, Naruto was sitting next to Hinata and Sasuke. The duo had become accustomed to sitting next to the lonely Uchiha, who secretly enjoyed their company. Of course, this angered all of Sasuke's fangirls, especially Sakura. "How dare they get to sit next to my Sasuke-kun? I should be the one next to him, not those losers." "All right, everyone," Iruka started. "I want to talk to you today about your goals." Iruka smiled. "What you want in life, and why you want to be a ninja. Who would like to start?" Iruka saw Naruto's hand shoot up in the air, waving to and fro. "Naruto? I want to be Hokage one day. I want to be known as the greatest Hokage to ever live. I want to be better than the Yondaime," he shouted. "Why do you want to be Hokage, Naruto?" Iruka asked. "Well, I want to be known as Uzumaki Naruto and not shunned by everyone," Naruto started sadly. Some of the students, including Hinata, looked at him with a sad gaze. "But I mostly want to protect the people I care for, and the people who care for me. I even want to protect those who hate me because they live in Konoha. I have to defend Konoha with my life. That's what Hokages do." Iruka smiled. "Well done, Naruto." He noticed Hinata raise her hand. "Would you like to go next, Hinata?" Hinata nodded. "I want to be a strong and fair leader of my clan. I want to change things between the main family and branch family," she started. Taking a deep breath, she continued, gaining a deep blush as she said, "I want to be a strong kunoichi and maybe a wife someday." Iruka chuckled. "All right. Anyone else?" Iruka went around the class asking all the other students. Surprising no one, Sakura exclaimed she was going to be Sasuke's wife. "Okay, Sasuke. You're the last one. What are your goals?" Sasuke sighed. "My goals are to revive my clan and to kill a certain man," he bluntly stated. Many of the girls swooned, stating how cool he was. Naruto blinked. Are you talking about your brother? Sasuke turned to Naruto. "Hn. Of course I am, Dobe," he said, turning his attention back to Iruka. "Why? It wasn't even Itachi's fault. Konoha's council forced him to kill your clan." Naruto, having realized what he said, slapped his hands over his mouth. Sasuke snapped his head towards Naruto, his eyes locking with the blonde's. "What did you say?" Naruto swallowed hard. He looked around the classroom and saw everyone's eyes on him. He then quickly bolted out the door of the classroom, running away from Sasuke and everyone else. "Dobe! Get back here and explain!" Sasuke yelled as he chased Naruto. Hinata stood up and went to run after them, but Iruka stopped her. "Let them go, Hinata. Naruto can handle this," he told her, though he was worried about Naruto, too. If what he said was true, that the council did order Itachi to kill off the Uchiha clan, then Sasuke was in for a whirlwind of emotions. Naruto reached the outside of the academy when Sasuke managed to tackle him to the ground. "Now tell me about the council," Sasuke said, venom in his voice. Naruto shoved Sasuke off him, trying to catch his breath. He knew if he took off running again, Sasuke would probably try and kill him. "All right. Just don't talk until I'm done, okay? There's a lot to explain." Sasuke frowned but gave a short nod. "All right. Well, I found out by accident," Naruto started. Naruto began his story on how he found the Hokage's journal and what he had read. He started with the first Hokage's entry about the founding of Konoha. He said that one member of the Uchiha clan, Madara, was a little sketchy. Sasuke was listening with high interest. He couldn't believe, though, that one of his own clan members was suspicious at the beginning of it all. Naruto continued with the actual Uchiha massacre, and how Sasuke's brother suspected Tobi to be the supposedly dead Uchiha Madara. He also explained how Itachi was a double agent through all of the massacre and is still a double agent and still very much loyal to Konoha. Sasuke sat there in complete shock. Everything he knew, all of it was a lie. A lie. All because of the damn council. Sasuke started to get angry. The council had pushed Sasuke to become a genin and graduate early, but he never did because his teachers didn't think he was quite ready yet. Sasuke grew even more angry as he realized the council tried to fuel his hatred towards Itachi with their constant reminders of the massacre and how Itachi wanted him to despise him. Sasuke's body began to tremble with rage. He had so many emotions running through him: anger, sadness, betrayal. Naruto stared at Sasuke in shock. Sasuke's reaction didn't surprise him, really. He'd realized even when he was reading the journal that Sasuke would be more than a little upset if he ever found out about this. It was what happened because of the Uchiha's reaction that shocked him. Sasuke's eyes, they were red with a single tomo in them. "Sasuke, your eyes." Sasuke turned to Naruto and frowned. He wasn't angry at Naruto. In fact, he was grateful, though it didn't show. He was glad he knew the truth, but he was still very angry. Sasuke left Naruto and took off running towards the Hokage tower. "Sasuke, wait!" Naruto yelled before taking off after Sasuke. Hiruzen was in a meeting with the entire Shinobi and civilian council. They were currently discussing this year's up-and-coming ninja. Of course, the village council was praising Sasuke, saying that he was going to be the rookie of the year. As if on cue, Sasuke charged through the doors, with 2 chunin behind him. Who gave the order? The council turned to see Sasuke looking rather menacing, and, shockingly, his Sharingan was activated. "Come on, kid. You can't be in here," one chunin said as he tried to pull Sasuke back. Naruto was right behind the chunin, but he knew Sasuke deserved a real explanation that wasn't from him. "Who gave the order?" Sasuke yelled. The Hokage stood up and waved his hand at the chunin, signaling them to back off. "Now Sasuke, what do you mean, who gave the order? Who gave the order to tell my brother to kill our clan? He shouted. Sasuke noticed that the Hokage was suddenly paralyzed with shock. He also noticed the council members were the same way, some more so than others. Hiruzen sighed. I did. You're a liar. I know it wasn't you. It was one of them. Sasuke yelled, pointing to the council. That shocked Hiruzen more. How does he know? Hiruzen cleared his throat, then spoke. Sasuke, before we get into this, how did you come to find out about this? That doesn't matter right now. I want to know who told Itachi to kill everyone in the Uchiha clan, he ordered. He looked around and saw that 2 members of the council were more calm and less shocked than the others. It was you too, wasn't it? Hiruzen turned and stared at his former teammates, Mitokado Hamura and Utatane Koharu. The female elder sighed. Forgive us Uchiha-san, but it was necessary. Your clan, I don't care. You could have done something other than killing them off. That was my family, he screamed. Tears were streaming down his cheeks as he screamed. You killed so many men, women, and children. Some of my clan members probably weren't even thinking about betraying Konoha. You could have spared so many lives. But instead you chose to be selfish and cruel. Uchiha-san. Please calm down, Hamura stated. Yelling isn't going to solve anything. What's done is done. Sasuke stared at the 2 elders, horrified at what they said. What's done is done. What's done is done. Screw you, you senile old bats, he screamed. You have no right to be on this council. I should kill you for killing my friends and family. The rest of the council seemed to disappear around Sasuke. It was only him and the 2 elders. The deepest circle of hell is reserved for people like you. You say my clan was out for power? You're wrong. It's you who's out for power, he shouted while pointing to the 2 elders. You're so afraid of one clan gaining control over this large and vast village, that you kill them off so you can keep the power that you have. Hiruzen sighed and decided to speak up. Sasuke, I am deeply sorry about what happened. Sasuke turned to the Hokage, his glare not so intense. I know you are. You weren't the one who ordered this, but you are to blame, too. Your word is law in this village. You could have nulled that order, and you didn't. The only reason you still have my respect is because you still see my brother as an ally to this village. I want to know how he obtained this information. Hiruzen sighed once more, then turned to the council. We'll continue this meeting another time. Sasuke, come with me. Can I come too, old man? Naruto spoke up. Hiruzen was about to object, but Sasuke nodded. You, too, Dobe. The council, along with the 2 Chunin, watched as the trio left the Hokage's tower. The rest of the council turned to the elders and looked at them with slight disgust. Everyone in the room thought Itachi had betrayed Konoha. Now they saw that the elders had betrayed Itachi so they could keep the power they had. Shikaku, head of the Nara clan, was the first to speak. God, how troublesome. I never thought I'd see the day the elders would turn against Konoha, he said before walking out of the meeting room. Agreed, Shibi, Shino's father and the head of the Aburame clan, voiced. He followed Shikaku out of the room. More and more members continued to agree with Shikaku as they left, including Akimichi Chuza, Yamanaka Inoichi, and even Hyuga Hiashi. The civilian council looked at each other before leaving as well, though they left without saying anything to the elders. Hamura and Koharu looked at each other and sighed. Perhaps it was time for them to retire. Hiruzen, Sasuke, and Naruto walked in silence. There was so much tension coming from Sasuke, it made Naruto and Hiruzen a little nervous to speak. Sasuke finally stopped in front of a small wooden dock. I come here when I want to be alone or need to think, he said solemnly. Hiruzen cleared his throat and spoke. Sasuke, how did you find out about the Uchiha massacre? Hat would be from me, Naruto said quietly. I was in your office a couple of months ago, and I accidentally came across the Hokage's journal, he said, hanging his head. Hiruzen's eyes widened. Yugao never mentioned that. Perhaps she didn't stay long enough. Hiruzen sighed. Naruto will talk later about why you were in my office, but why were you reading the journal? I was curious. I'm sorry, is that as far as you read? Hiruzen prayed that he didn't read the Yondame's entries. Yes. I swear that's as far as I read. I was going to stop, but I noticed Uchiha Madara's name in the entry you wrote, which I thought was odd since I read it in the Shodai's entry, Naruto stated. Soi decided to investigate. I'm really sorry, old man. Please don't be angry. Hiruzen sighed and began to massage the bridge of his nose. I'm not angry, Naruto. A little frustrated, but not angry. He then turned to Sasuke. What are you going to do now, Sasuke? I don't know, I need to think, he said sitting down at the edge of the dock. Hiruzen nodded. Alright, Sasuke. Naruto, come with me. We're going to discuss why you were in my office. Hiruzen scowled. Naruto flinched, but nodded. Hiruzen gave a short nod and began to walk back to his office. Naruto turned to Sasuke. Hey Sasuke? He grunted. I hope you still want to be a ninja. It won't be any fun trying to kick your ass if you aren't there, Naruto stated. He gave Sasuke his signature big cheeky grin before following the Hokage. Sasuke sighed, but he couldn't keep a small smirk from gracing his lips. Naruto was standing in front of the Hokage's desk, silence filling the room. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of silence, Hiruzen spoke. Naruto, I'm very disappointed in you. I know. I'm sorry. Naruto, why were you in my office? Hiruzen asked, as he lit the tobacco in his pipe. Well, Mizuki-sensei said he hid a scroll in here with a bunch of jutsu on it in your office. He said that if I find it and write some jutsu down, he would give me extra credit to help me pass, Naruto explained. Hiruzen stared at Naruto dumbfounded. Mizuki? I can't believe he would do that to Naruto. He knows Naruto was desperate to graduate. Hiruzen then picked up the small seal. Naruto, do you know what this is? Yeah. That's the seal that hides the scroll Mizuki-sensei hid. Where'd you put it? He exclaimed. Naruto, Mizuki didn't hide this scroll. But, Mizuki-sensei said Mizuki lied, Naruto. He didn't hide this scroll. I did. This scroll is the Forbidden Scroll. It holds all of Konoha's most powerful jutsu. I can only assume that Mizuki wanted you to find this scroll to give him the jutsu inside, correct? Why yeah, Naruto seemed slightly depressed. Mizuki had lied to him, just so Mizuki could benefit from Naruto's crime. I'm so sorry, he said as tears threatened to fall. Hiruzen nodded. I know you are Naruto. What ninjutsus did you take? 2V learned the Kagebushin and I'm learning Katan, Heizukisho, he said, wiping his tears away. Hiruzen nodded again. All right, Naruto. You may go. But don't let Mizuki know about this conversation, okay? I'm going to have some of my jonin pick him up and talk to Ibiki. Naruto nodded and smiled. Bye, old man. And thanks a lot. Naruto quickly ran out of the Hokage's office, happy he wasn't in too much trouble. Hiruzen frowned and gently stroked his pointed gray beard. Mizuki wouldn't go to all that trouble to trick Naruto just for his own personal gain. He must be working for someone. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more content. Support the original author by clicking their profile link in the pinned comment of the first video of this series. They deserve the love. Want early access and exclusive content? Join my Patreon community, link below. Your support fuels these videos. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay entertained. Stay safe.